Strongman people are assholes and they don't show up on time.
So. You gonna hear me piss when I go into the bathroom? Do you have another like actual like big term goal, like multiply?
intros real quick, just in case anybody doesn't know who he is, Ryan.
I'm Taylor Gohn. That's who I am.
That's it. Not bad. I'll do some more intro for us. We've been in Strongman a long time. He works with a lot of pro guys. I'm fortunate to have a huge stable of strongman guys, and I've been training these guys for years and years. So just like the main thing, you pick up on the bad stuff and you pick up on the good stuff, and that's what we were excited about with this, because we've already seen all the terrible stuff, so we're going to show it to you the right way. How this will roll, we're going to do like a macro sense programming type thing, just kind of how to lay out, and we're going to work backwards from a hypothetical show. We'll just kind of throw some hypothetical events out. We don't like to be very formal with what we're doing. We both agreed that we wanted to kind of let you guys take us where we're going to go with the seminar, and we're going to start to kind of tell you guys, just have some have-tos and what you guys should have in at certain phases of your prep. We're going to keep this short and sweet because we want to lift a lot. So after this, we're going to do log. We got 2 men's logs and a women's log. We'll put them out here. And then we're going to go over that shit. And then we're going to have you guys lift in, and we'll start kind of both coaching. We're going to tweak some techniques. You don't have to lift, you know. So what we're going to, you guys will get enough if you don't feel like lifting, or if you're here as a coach and you just want to learn some stuff to give you guys. We're going to have some of our athletes over here. They'll move some weight a little bit. And we're going to explain to you the mechanics and all the main points for this stuff that we want, and then we're going to go on to, he's going to coach he's one of the best stone coaches in the world, and we're going to go into like I don't even know how we would put it. It's going to be more of like, it's going to be a general thing. It's going to be for the stone, but the lap and load technique is going to carry over to your sandbag carries. It's going to carry over to your CAG carries. Anything over bar to a platform, you're going to get all that out here. So we'll go into that with him, and then he's going to show you guys with like a med ball or something. We'll figure out that blue ball we used last time.
Yeah, something I can go slow on.
Yeah, and then we'll get into, we'll bring the sandbags out. We can do some of the sandbags out here, and then some of you guys, if you guys want to tack up and do stones along with Taylor and whoever else wants to do stones, we'll do that, and then we'll have a clean off area in the back. And don't fuck up the bathrooms, because I hate that. So outside of that, we'll get rolling.
Cool.
All right, so
basically, kind of what we're trying to get into is annual planning. You know, other sports have pretty organized schedules, and it's pretty clear what they do throughout the year, as far as like different phases of training, different purposes of what they're practicing and all that. Strength sports are a little bit different because we're kind of picking our contests throughout the year at random times, depending on our schedule and all that. So what we're trying to show you is how to structure that same sort of preparation going into a preparation for a show, depending on what time of the year you're doing your show, rather than like a chronological order. You know, say football, it's always in the fall if they're getting ready for competing, that sort of thing.
yeah, so like if we think about it, like a lot of people have done like a standard peak for like a standard power lift, right? So we start out however many weeks out, right? You build some reps, build some volume. Maybe it's 8s or 10s or something. You cut it down to 5s, 6s, something like that. And then you go to triples, and then you go to singles at what would be like a meet or a show. What's cool about Strongman, why I love it on the coaching end, is that it blends all these energy systems in. So like for like nationals, we have to peak for conditioning, but we also have to peak for max strength. And then you have to have muscular endurance. You have to have your cardiovascular system peak. And there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong. So I've seen a lot of guys where they got nationals, whatever, coming up in 6 months, and they're like, I'm going to condition for it now. Not understanding that your conditioning detrains really, really fast. So you could be in great shape if you sit on the couch for 2 weeks, you're detrained all the way. So we want to kind of instill that a lot of our stuff has what's called residual training effects, okay? So how long does the training effect of the adaptation you created for yourself, how long does that last? So maximal strength, we know that maximal strength peaked doesn't last very, very long. If you're a lucky individual, it's going to be about a 4-week window, and that's why it's so hard to peak for powerlifting meets and stuff and hit that right on the head. And people peak and they miss and all that stuff. So, and then the other challenge, of course, is how do we peak our cardiovascular endurance or our muscle endurance alongside peaking a maximum technique like a deadlift? Okay, so what do you think we should do? we'll say a hypothetical like.
Make it basic. We got to do a max. We got to do something for reps that you're going to cap out. Maybe 10 reps is going to win it.
Yeah. So like let's say, okay, so we'll go over just a basic deadlift, right? Let's say this hypothetical show has a max deadlift, right? And then let's say it has
log press for reps.
Log press for reps in a minute, set weight, right? That's a pretty common thing. And then
just do a 50-foot carry.
Yeah, we'll go over a carry and then maybe some stones, right?
Yeah.
So all this stuff we can kind of just mix and match it in your brain.
You can see how like all of these lifts, like he said, there's so many different energy systems. It has a max strength. It has like short-term endurance. It has more longer-term endurance where it's less musculature and just more lungs. It you know, if you're looking at a contest that has a throw, it's all CNS and explosion and kind of that sort of endurance. So we're just trying to show how to match everything up so that you're training everything properly and not missing anything,
yeah,
right?
like a blend, right? So, like we'll start with the deadlift because that'll be like the easiest one, right? So, this is why I want to do this with him because we have a little bit of a different periodization model that we go. I run a lot of conjugate stuff with my Strongman, and he runs conjugate but with like some linear components or mostly, but it's like all.
It's like, you know, it's kind of like really whatever's needed, you know. If it's max effort, we're training for max effort, we'll do that more frequently. The frequency of the style that we're training depends on, one, where the athlete is at, and two, what's required from the goal. So if they need to get stronger, we train in a percentage that causes strength adaptation more frequently. If they don't need to get quite as strong, they need to get faster, we might train speed more frequently.
Okay, so this is a good point. We'll segue to this thing. So we'll call this, I'll just write it on here just so we have it on here. It'll be log. Okay. So what he was saying, right? So what we have a lot of these guys do is they have a set rep, a weight per reps at a show is log. Let's say clean and press every rep, okay? And then you kind of go, well, what do I need? What's the contest weight? Am I there? So the two different athletes are going to train it very, very differently, right? If your max is 80 pounds above the contest weight, do you need to push your maximal strength up or do you need to push your endurance up? The answer is going to be endurance, right? So that training block is going to look significantly different than if we're 70 pounds behind that log, then we need to start doing max effort work as opposed to the repetition work. Does that make sense? So,
Can I add to that?
Yeah, go.
So on that opposite note then, like, for example, my last contest, I had an overhead press event that was extremely heavy, but it was for reps, right? So it was still a significant PR for myself just hitting it for one rep, but the requirements of the contest was multiple reps. But with such a short period of time and it already being, you know, so much to my max lift, couldn't really train it like an AMRAP because it's pretty unreasonable to think that I'm just going to get in there and throw it around for the whole minute. So I trained it for like a 1 to 3 rep max as opposed to an AMRAP. And when you actually look at the progression of that in practice, it's going to be completely different, like ramping up. Does that make sense?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So so this is how he would fuck up, right? Because I see this all the time, because it's 1 minute, people start training for 1 minute, right? So they're not strong enough, right? So kind of what we do. So in a scenario like this, I have my guys, we go by, I kind of call it the rule of 120%, right? So if we have the X weighted log here, for them, if we condition correctly, for them to hit that for 1 minute straight, and that would be, I like to have that because I say, all right, if you hit that for 1 minute straight, everybody else has to fuck up and you win that event, right? So that's a good spot to be in. If we get you, and this is what I've had from my studies over the years on my guys' data, is if we get you to 120% of the max log way over here this off season, so we're at 120%, and this is just, take that number for what you will, this holds true within my system, okay? So it'll be skewed a little bit different. If we get you to 120% of that max log, and we transform you correctly, transformation would be, in programming terms, in between the off-season, what you could think of in a powerlifting term as the hypertrophy, and then we transform that into whatever you need to peak before the show, okay? So, if we get you to 120%, and let's say this would be the example for a guy that was weight under contest weight for that long. If we get you there and we transform you with your muscular endurance and then your overall cardio here to go for 1 minute, it's cardio, but you're using your muscles, right? It's Metcon. If we do that properly, you will be able to lift that log within my system for the whole minute, okay? So that starts to set up your training because we work backwards, okay? So if we are trying to go to 120%, that requires max effort work. So we have to push the max log up, right? So now do we want to just kind of generalize that, or do we want to kind of talk about sets, reps, and...
I wouldn't go into sets and reps. Keep going on that, because I want to add on to that, but you're on to
So
something.
what we would do, so for my guys, right? So I use like conjugated approach. So we push, it's an overhead movement with neutral grip handles, okay? So I come up, all right, we got the log. We have all these variations on the log. For instance, we use a push press. We use a power jerk, and we use a split jerk. And then we also use a 2-count pause push press at the bottom. And all these guys hate that because that one sucks. But I use other implements to overload, okay? So if we put a football bar in your hands and we don't have that big, bulky-ass log on your chest, now you get your rack position perfect. And now, theoretically, if you are pressing correctly, you should be able to handle significantly more weight on a football bar, but it's in the same plane, similar to that same range of motion. And then just pressing in general, as my cycle, we'll go through my cycle, we'll put, just for weight overhead, your axle is usually a little bit above your log. So we'll put the axe on there, whatever like that. So our goal is, we go through conjugate style is, most of you guys might know this, but it's like a max effort and a speed or repetition day. So like on their max effort days, we run 1 rep max on 1 bar, 1 week. Let's say it was log, week 1. Week 2 would be football bar, week 3 would be axle bar, week 4 would be, if week 1 was a push press, week 4 might be a split jerk. So our goal for that is to push up the maximal strength as far as we can. Now, some guys are, I guess they might be a little bit more cardio adaptive or slow to it. So if we don't hit this 120%, it's not the end of the world. Still might be able to get through that 1 minute if you got some juice, So the goal for this is we run max effort, right? So this would be, if we kind of sectionalize it just for shits and giggles here, and this would be like, this would be in a normal programming sense, like a hypertrophy / I read like a caveman, I'm sorry. Off season, this would be transformation. And then this would be peak. Is that all right with you? Yeah.
Do you guys understand what's going on here?
Yeah. Now, if you have questions, just fire them out. If you want to be interactive.
So, right here, we're kind of we're practicing mechanics that are going to directly be the same mechanics that are in the contest or whatever you're trying to do, but that aren't specifically the exact contest setup. And you structure your variations to feed into one another so they gradually get more and more similar, so that you can guarantee, like you're talking about that max effort, as you go into the next variation, it's almost a little bit easier so that you can guarantee that you're progressing that way.
Point, right? So what everybody, I see, they fuck it up all the time. They don't complement their training and set themselves up for success, okay? So let's say they know their technique is dog shit, right? On the log. Let's say they get here and their hips are pinned forward and they do this, which is 90% of most people that press logs when they start. Then this will change, like this. So when I put in hypertrophy, we were just talking about this. I just threw it up there. It doesn't really make sense for what we were talking about before, but this was just to say hypertrophy because most people understand after a contest we do hypertrophy work. And that was kind of this common old linear periodization goal or model that we had in America. But this hypertrophy, I would kind of hone in on the off season. That will change from athlete to athlete, okay? So your off season, like he was talking about technical stuff feeding into the next thing. If your log technique is dog shit, your off season needs to be fix my fucking log first, and then we slowly add weight to even get to be able to press this weight for a single. Does that make sense?
And it's not necessarily fix the log with log, it's fix the log with the underlying movement pattern fuck-ups that you have, right? So we all kind of operate on the same mechanics no matter what lift it is. And so those mechanics are kind of practiced and optimized here, and those will carry over into competition-specific lifts.
Exactly, right? So, like I use the football bar a lot to teach the mechanics of the log, even though it's not the same. But we have neutral grip. It's kind of similar. The issue is for a lot of guys, especially guys have terribly immobile lats, and a lot of people do in general. But their issue in the log is that their elbows are shallow. They're not up into a good rack position. So when they go to sit back, the log falls. So they don't learn how to sit back. They just kick their knees under the log, and they lose everything. So I take the lats out of it. If you use a football bar, you can crank that fucker right around your face and look up to the sky, and it almost nullifies your lat mobility. Now, in a perfect world, yes, we would be hammering lat mobility here if that was an issue for you, or your T-spine mobility in general. But that's exactly what he was talking about, right? So we want to ingrain the proper mechanics however you can, and it doesn't have to be with the log like he was talking about. Yep. I use that for a lot in the off season with we do the football bar for the guys, and that's like, I tell them, hey, that's what I want your log number to be at in a couple of months once we transform that technique onto the log. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Bill.
So it's actually really funny because I take the exact opposite approach and we kind of come up with the same result. But I think about
Well, this is good. This is exactly what I wanted them to have. Because like, there's a macro sense of how it needs to be done, and then you can get there a couple of different ways. So that's why I wanted him.
This is just the way we go about this is just how we communicate to our athletes, and it really doesn't matter what is said as long as the point comes across of how much effort I want them to put in the right kind of ways, right? So it operates on the same system. Our athletes are really doing the same thing, but it's communicated and labeled differently. So he comes at it from the top end approach. I actually come at it from bottom end approach, which would be since we're working on endurance, I find it, not saying this is wrong by any means, just different thinking, the least frequent I can spend in the maximal strength and more time in the endurance, the better. So I will spend some time in the max effort, but most of the time will be dedicated towards bringing up the reps. So I actually think, so this is 120% of contest weight, correct? Not max weight, right? So this is, you can see, if we're training a little bit above the contest, you're going to be strong enough to rep out the contest, right? So I think about making 100% of contest weight your 70 to 80% numbers, right? So it's the same thing.
Yeah, so right.
100% of contest weight, that's like about 80%. If this is 100%, then that's 80%, right? And so if I bring up contest weight and make it your 80%, it's kind of the same thing.
Exactly.
Right?
So this kind of goes to where, so if he was going to do it, like, so if you were to put in like reps for your guy, right? Mm-hmm. So when I talk about cardio peaking versus cardio maintenance, right? So he's going to go at it, he wants to stay in the cardio zone, right? That's cardio maintenance. Cardio maintenance is okay. What I was referring to, just to clear this up, was that like I see guys doing like hard, heavy metcons, short rounds, and that's great cardio work in general, but that adaptation you receive from that workout doesn't hang around a lot. It's like peaking your speed. You peak your speed, it drops off very, very fast. What he's talking about is cardio maintenance, right? So you can do your cardio maintenance all year round, you're going to be way better off when it comes time to peak. But like, so his would fit into more of like the hypertrophy style, right? So what would be just hypotheticals? Like, what's the rep range there where you would have your guys at?
So for something like that, we doing press away or we doing clean every time?
Let's call it clean each rep because that's.
If we're doing clean each time, this is just generally how I would have the approach. Obviously, it's going to change depending on the athlete, but it's going to be a lot of singles with very aggressive rest time, and the rest time being shortened. So let's think of like a 12-week prep, right? I'm going to spend the first 6 to 8 weeks hitting EMOM singles because I want the technique to be perfect, but I want you to be very fatigued and tired because that's the way it's going to be in the contest. And if I say, hey, do a set of 5 at that same effort, your technique will probably start to fall apart a couple reps in. So I want to find the most amount of singles that I can do and the shortest amount of rest period that I can do to maintain the perfect technique all the way through. And then we progress that with shortening the rest time. increasing singles or even maintaining the number of singles that we're doing and maintaining the rest time while adding weight. So just really trying to milk every different avenue of progress that we can have other than just adding weight to the bar.
Yep, so that is called training density, okay? So you have the same weight, same set, same reps, decreased rest periods, you get more work done, okay? So this is where a lot of guys kind of fall into a trap. If you find a weight that you're grooving and it feels awesome, if it's 225 on the log and it feels great, keep the weight. Just add some fucking density. Shorten the rest periods, add some sets. Add a pause at the top, or add a pause where you suck at your technique with the same weight. All that stuff is never going to be, you're never going to not have a good training session if you do some of that stuff. You don't need to just constantly progress. If you get better and you add more density and you get more reps and more volume at the same weight, you've technically gotten stronger, okay?
So that would be like the first half of the prep, and that gives us enough time. I would do all those numbers, honestly, not even necessarily based off the contest number, because I would value the technique over anything. So I would do those percentages based on what you can do, and then, at that 4 to 6 week mark out, you can see, okay, this next block, do I need to spend more time getting stronger because I'm still that far behind, or do I need to spend time, now that I'm in shape to hit rep after rep after rep perfectly, is it time to put it under the minute context and start getting more specific? So going back to earlier, we talked about variations feeding into one another. The training feeds into one another as well, right?
Exactly, right? So if we have a guy that's out here in off season, and then his log's dialed in, then we start putting the minute parameter on, and now our gears have shifted, and these lines will be blurred. They're never going to be solid. You'll kind of figure this out. But when we start to get into this transformation phase, that's when we'll start to add densities to the workout. We're going to start to maybe put the 1 minute time clock on them, and we're going to we're going to put that technique to the test by adding different parameters to it, with obviously the main goal being trying to get here. So
we also might, going very back to the beginning, talking about multiple contests in a year, depending on where we're at, this is a little bit more advanced, but does everyone understand the purpose of this first block here, the practicing the mechanics? Okay, so if we've got a guy and his log is on point and it's like, he's fine, he's only got to practice it and brush up on it once a week, he's strong enough to throw around the contest weight and we're good to go at 4 weeks out, we might take this block and put it here and start practicing some mechanics for the next contest. Because those mechanics are still the same, and there will be practice at such a low weight that it's only going to be conducive to the log in that current contest, but it's also going to carry into the next one. Does that make sense?
and that
What's up?
So for the person that's already strong enough to throw that later round,
Yep.
you still have the training intensity emphasized in the transformative phase?
I'm saying if they're at that point where they're throwing the weight around, they wouldn't need that intensive a density phase. Does that make sense? They've either already gone through it or they don't need it.
So let's say a guy is in great shape with a beautiful technique on the log, and let's say he's a 300-pound presser and this is 175. He could throw this around in his sleep. It does not matter.
Yeah.
So we are
He
going to
might even practice log every other week.
And this comes down to training efficiency, right? This is a huge key that you want to pick up on as an athlete. We don't want to spend and eat up a bunch of time training for that log when we have 5 events to train for. Does that make sense? So like I got a guy, for instance, right? He's going to do a max deadlift. He's a huge monster deadlifter. No one at his show is likely going to outpull him. So we just scrapped the deadlift 4 weeks out. He's not deadlifting. He's a week out. We took one moderately heavy deadlift today just to get him to deadlift something, and we're just going to let him. He's not going to do a max pull. He's going to walk up and he's going to pull whatever the hell the jump is, 20 pounds more than the next guy, and he's going to take his W and he's going to move on to the next event. I looked at his training, and we changed this in the transformation phase. I looked at it, I'm like, this is going to be a huge pull for you, and we're not going to go battling the next guy that pulls 1,000 pounds. So our training is going to be more efficient if we focus on the techniques of what sucked relative to his game as a whole, which was his sandbag carry, so we started doing more sandbags.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go.
That's a really good point on the difference between peaking for powerlifting and peaking for strongman. Going back to what I said on frequency, powerlifting is really straightforward. It's maximal strength. The frequency of how heavy you can lift is going to be pushed as frequently as possible, and that peak is going to, be pushed as closely into the contest as you can recover from. Whereas strongman, it's kind of one of those things where we're sitting at 3 weeks out. If we're strong enough, you don't continue to push that. You are peaked. You set yourself up so that you have enough time to say, okay, we've peaked. We can just start pulling back and bullshitting until the contest, and we're ready to go. So
if you're peaked and you're flying and everything is going good, the opposite of that and the only extra thing that is going to happen is shit's going to go bad, it's going to go south, and you're going to run into an injury. You are not going to get stronger the last 2 or 3 weeks out. What you can do is recover more. So I see these guys that are pushing max singles a week out. The adaptation time is not there. You're not going to get stronger from one session of max effort. It is the accumulation over block to block. So you're going to fuck yourself up more, and you're not going to recover. So, and it goes by max, right? The smaller athletes, you can recover a little bit faster. You can handle more volume. You can handle more frequency. It's like ripping up carpet. You rip up a lot of carpet. You got a lot of carpet top. It's just like building up muscle. The big guys out here, they have to recover longer. So a max deadlift for these big 300-pounders might be way out here, and then we'll hit maybe some speed work or not even touch it at all.
Yeah, that's kind of puts into perspective really how strong some of the top-level guys are. Is that very rarely in a strongman contest, even with a max event, is an athlete going to be required to fully be in shape for maximal weight. Because there's so many other things going on, there's so many other energy sources required of them, they're not going to be pushed towards their full potential of a true 1-rep max on a single lift. Does that make sense? So even with a max event, very rarely past your first couple shows are you pushed to max effort.
Now before we go any further, any questions on this kind of traveling from off-season to show? Anything at all? Okay, well let's go. Okay.
Is everyone good with all this? Makes sense?
Okay, so let's go. What do we think?
Well, we just did the whole damn year.
Yeah, that was.
We did pretty good. I didn't think we were going to do that good.
No, that was.
How about a round of applause for us?
Well, so I think so. Okay, let's talk about the conditioning part.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't you, because you have your guys, speak about kind of like the conditioning maintenance. Like if let's say we got, what do we got? We got a 60-foot sandbag medley for 3 sandbags of some kind, right? Something like that. Which sucks, right? But we'll just call it a medley, right?
Okay. 5, whatever. Yeah. Too many object medley.
In the sand, like those
sand.
Assholes fucking 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of that is my carry medleys. Preps actually will never. I shouldn't say never. Extremely rarely will actually do the full run. It'll be a lot of partials. Whether it's let's say you have 3 objects, all for 50 feet, and you don't even have to load it over anything. It's just across the line, right? So I might have you do just singles. I might have you do doubles. I might have you do triples, but at much lower weight or at the same weight, not ascending or whatever the contest is. But really the majority of it would be spent on the turns and transitions. So maybe 25 feet in, you hit it, and then you do the turn and you finish the 50-foot back. So that's kind of where you have to think about the technique portions, because in my opinion, shows are won on the transitions with carries. At a certain point with some of those weights, if you notice over the years in strongman, the weights all kind of come up throughout the years, but the carries come up the slowest. And so the actual advancement of time an athlete can complete that with the object is going to be capped out pretty quickly. And so where you win is on the backside. Does that make sense?
So okay. What he's saying is school because I tell my guys this exact same thing in a little bit different way. I tell them that most people with a heavy-ass sandbag in their arms are going to be very, very similar in the foot race portion.
Yep.
Where they lose is if they try to go and they rush their pick. And then they get it up to here, and then they drop it. And then they fucking monkey fuck it all over it, and then they try to pick it up again. So that is how we start to set this up, okay? Now, if you're carrying a sandbag like this and you're walking, that's wrong. You got to figure out technique, right?
Yeah.
So this is how we start to figure this out. You look at your sandbags. Let's say it's 250, well, we'll go at 200, 250, 275 back. And if you're looking at that, like, oh shit, the 200 bag is very, I can't get it to my chest. I can't get it above my belly to carry it like this, how you're supposed to. It's only down to here. That's how we start to make this. So what do we put in here? It's technique, and we have to get that sandbag onto your chest properly. We have to learn how to pick. We have to learn all the shit we're going to teach you with his technique.
Something to think about, just to put in your head. If you can't do what he's just talking about with the sandbag, it's the same reason your log's fucked up from earlier.
It's the same reason your log's fucked up, same reason
So,
your stone sucks, same reason
you can
together.
practice shit with less shit.
Yeah, so my goal is for this is we want to have, like when he taught me how to do the stone, it was like a nice, beautiful explosion in my brain, and it was this nice universal concept that goes across the board everywhere, and that's how I teach my deadlift and stuff like that. And you're going to figure out a lot of similarities on how we're going to teach the log and stuff to you, is that these are universal concepts that will carry over to every single thing. How to use your hips, how to transfer leg drive through the trunk into an overhead, how to transfer leg drive through the trunk into a throw. All of it is very, very similar, but it gets convoluted in training because people don't understand how to set it up correctly. So they're just random. I mean, up until a few years ago, it would be, most of the training was fucking Strongman Saturday, everybody's sitting around shaking hands and bullshitting, and it was random events on a Saturday with your bros and your friends, and then it would be like, I'm going to hit the gym and do some bodybuilding stuff all week, and then no one ever made any progress. So that's why I started doing these way back when, because this shit is invaluable to your training, and it makes you progress way, way faster. Now,
So
go ahead, go.
finish up that carry endurance event portion, I would spend as much time as possible, even up until like 2 or 3 weeks out, just doing those partials technique portions of the sandbag run. And because it's such a light weight comparatively to like your max squat or deadlift, it's really not something you have to get stronger about. It's something that you can, do on the assault bike or with sprint workers. Find the appropriate endurance type of thing to do and have them do that for the meat and potatoes of the training while the rest of it was spent on the technique. Have them do a run through or something close to it.
So this is gold right here, right? So this is cardio adaptations, okay? If you're going to do a 1 minute medley, you don't have to be able to do the 1 minute, to train it to get in shape for it, cardiovascular wise. You don't have to be just running sandbags all the time.
Actually get you in less shape for it.
If we are doing 1 minute intervals and you are in fucking amazing shape, you can do 10 1 minute intervals with a 10-second break and you're not even winded. That will help you with your sandbag, given that you fix your technique the way he's saying like that. So that is training efficiency, like I mentioned before. You're going to notice a theme here. I'm going to say that a lot. That is how we start to. Now, some guys get, let's say you started getting some bicep tendonitis. A lot of us get that. We're doing strongman because we lift a lot of stuff like this. And you're banged up. You don't want to do the sandbag. Okay, how do we still do some good, effective work towards that medley? Well, hit the assault bike, hit the rower, fucking run sprints, whatever you got to do. Make the energy system similar, and that is the most important thing. We could, theoretically, if we had a decent enough athlete, we could just train them somehow without touching these implements for the energy system, and they would do pretty damn well.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry if this is repetitive, but you brought up something really good, talking about what the sport entails and kind of how it shapes you, right? You look at a wrestler and they're kind of walking around like this. You look at a strongman, they're walking around like this with their hands fucking glued shut and giant shoulders kind of pulled forward, right? And we just talked about how principles of movement just kind of carry over to all lifts, right? So back to this pre-block, that is typically going to be designed to counter the shit that the sport like shapes you to.
exactly right. So this is all right. When would we, like all right, strongman? Why would we do lunges? Well, we would do lunges, and we would do Unilateral work. That would be to balance the body out, right? So if you're doing deadlifts and you have a hip shift and you have like one big quad and one low back pump all the time on one side, this is the time where you want to fix that. Right here. We don't want to be worrying about fixing imbalances before you put a max log over your head or pull a max deadlift. Does that make sense? So that's when it's all of this is like the fix your shit phase right here. Fix it all.
Let me ask you something about powerlifting. How many good benchers you see with weak pecs?
A lot.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Because you can bench so much with your back, right? So how do you counter that weakness? You would train your pecs during that phase to keep them caught up.
Yeah, we train pecs, we'll
You
train
don't really need them in the
single arm,
season.
dumbbell stuff, 'cause we're always with the barbell, right? So this is like if you're doing barbell training, if you're doing a lot of event training, this is when we do, for strongman, we do a lot more like powerlifting style movements. Build your squat up.
That's when you get stronger, actually, for strongman. That's when you bring
Yep.
your max strength up.
That's where,
'cause
yeah.
you should be spending most of the time getting faster and more conditioned, because you're ideally, and in a perfect world, I'm going to start the athlete 12 weeks out already strong enough to throw every weight around. Not on the same day, but just as their starting point, and so the
Exactly.
rest of the time is spent just getting better at them.
Yeah, that's like, so when I get I get the athlete talks to me, I go, oh, this motherfucker, man, I got to deal with this. Is when they're like not even close to strong enough for a show. And they're like, I want to do this show because they have like a fucking tractor and we're deadlifting it. And I'm like, okay, but this doesn't fit anywhere in there. And then that's when we run into stuff. Like then I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have to throw a Hail Mary and hopefully you don't zero every single event and embarrass the whole team. So I pick shows that you can do. Like the biggest thing that was a mind fuck for me was I was doing Michigan Strongest against the guy Adam Lane, I think his name was, and this dude was a pro strongman and he had like a 600-pound deadlift. I'm like, is this something 600-pound deadlift? Like what? And the dude, we were chatting, and the dude was just, he navigated shows that were good for him. He had a Monster Circus and the Stone or whatever, but he did shows that complemented his strengths, and that's playing the game. That's playing the sport. A lot of people just try to go strength for strength on a lot of this stuff. I know I'm getting off topic here, but this is important. And you have to pick shows that will complement you. If you suck at every single event, that's probably not going to be a good one for your psyche as an athlete, which we talk about all the time as a huge important thing in the long term. But this guy had navigated his ass up to a pro card with a 600-pound deadlift, which is nothing for that level of an athlete.
And also, not that unheard of to do that with kind of a weaker deadlift.
Yep.
Because honestly, I think sometimes maybe social media and just the nature of the deadlift and how fucking cool it is can kind of like make us view strongman a little differently than it actually is, because pretty rarely is it like the guys that have that like huge deadlift really don't do well in much else.
No.
You know?
Yeah, and it's so we get. But okay, so he was my deadlifter I was speaking of. But we're going towards training efficiency. I'm like, you don't. He's got a 1,000-pound deadlift. No one's gonna outpull him. We probably if they signed up for the show, we would probably fucking know who they were. So why would we train? We don't need to train that. That's a warm-up day for him. He wins. So it's training efficiency, right? So you have to focus on the stuff you suck at. The reason being is when you start strongman, you're like, I gotta win every event. What place wins nationals? Most like 10th place, 11th place, sometimes lower, right? Top 12, right? You guys that coast at 12 across the board. It's not being the best at every event. It's being good at all the events. That's the whole game right there. You got to be well-rounded. You can't be a specialist. So if you want to go into the gym and deadlift all the time because you're good at deadlifting, don't fucking do it. Do the shit you suck at. Maintain your deadlift. Build where you suck. You're going to be a more complete athlete.
What would you say would be reasonable, because it's not a perfect world, right? We're always not good at all 5 events. A lot of guys come in, we don't want to zero every event either. And to train efficiently and go into an event and look at 5 different events, what would be reasonable? Trying to train efficiently at 2 of the events because you're good at 3 of them? Like, where do you draw the line?
I don't think you should stray away from events that are bad from you necessarily, is what he's saying, but I think you can use certain shows for different purposes. Like one show I might be saying, you know what, you want to know what? It's unreasonable for me to expect to blow the doors off this one, so I'm I'm going to use this slot to practice and get this event up. So actually you can use one event to stay in these two phases, just because you suck at it so bad that you're going to progress so much you don't need, it wouldn't be appropriate to like peak it necessarily. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you can almost kind of use, you know, if you kind of got to swallow your ego, but one event needs to be for practice while you're gunning for the other ones. And, you know, this is a sport that's, I was told at the beginning of this, you need to put 10 years in as hard as you can, and then you will be able to see if you have what it takes. I'm at 7, so I don't even know if I have what it takes yet. And in my opinion, it's just what's required between all the energy systems, between the advancement of the pre-required weights. It just takes so much goddamn time that you just got to be okay with putting an event in the back seat until it's not.
So this is what's really weird that I found out about strength sports over the years, is that people put it in just win-loss. That's it, black and white. And they're not understanding that you need to practice competitive time at the shows. You have to learn how to be good as an athlete. If you played high school sports of any kind, you realize, you remember that mental jump you had from junior year to senior year. Junior year, you're still learning the rules. Senior year, you're letting the fucking animal out. You have to get good enough to do that. Now, to put it into perspective to what you said, right? If we had like a tangible number, I kind of think of it like this, like what he was saying, is we don't want to put any of them on the back burner, but if you got one real good event, all right, maintain that event. That's going to get you as high as you can get in that event. And then it's 5 events. You have 2 more. That's over halfway of the show. So I would say focus on 2 more of those events and get those close. Some of this comes down to knowing your competitors, right? So I used to go against fucking Sean Shoemaker, one of the best deadlifters ever in the world. We would have a deadlift, and I'd be like, all right, well, he's going to win. So who's the next motherfucker on the list? What's his deadlift? I have to beat him, and that's it. I'm second place. And then if I beat him in the rest of the events, then I win the show, right? So some of that comes down to that weird moment you get when they release the competitor list, and you're like stalking these guys and all that shit, and you're trying to find their mother's maiden name and their blood type and all that shit, right? All that stuff really, really helps you out because you can start to structure your training very, very efficiently. If you know this guy's got a monster pull, he can't carry shit, make sure your carry dusts him and then the next couple guys that can carry, and you're going to set yourself up for success in that show.
Yeah.
Now, is there any, we're going to be done with this portion. Is there anybody that wants to?
Questions? Everyone understand?
Questions? We could talk about anything.
So I figure that, going back to what I said about, like, you know, maybe the heaviest sandbag you might carry might be 300 to 350, right? Heaviest yoke might be 1,000 pounds, so it's going to be more frequently spent in a higher percentage to get the adaptation to be stronger for it. Does that make sense? Less time spent in that, like, transition, strictly technique portion, again, because it's heavier. But I would still do, like, the thing I described earlier about, you know, 25 feet in and a turn and then 50 back. I'll still train that for events like that, just maybe less frequently.
So what I would say, right, so as you get, the data is going to tell you the whole story about your training as you get up there. As you get up, you're going to accumulate more data. You have to keep training logs. Keep these serial killer notebooks with 1 million pages, drawing shit all over them. Keep that shit, and it'll tell you everything you got to know. If you're going into like a show where we can look at trends in your training, you can help yourself do a lot better. I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this.
So you recognize patterns over the years, and so here's the thing, the biggest thing that's helped me coach and program. Nobody's really that special. Like, everybody's different and responds differently, but there's only a couple ways to respond differently, and so really there's only a finite way that things can happen, whether it's the progression of the percentages, whether it's the response of the athlete, whether it's the flaw in the technique. There are only a handful of things that can go wrong. And so it's really easy over the years to kind of identify the trends and the patterns and how you respond to certain different things, because there's really no like special like out there thing that hasn't been figured out yet.
Yeah, so okay, this is where I was gonna go. So when I start talking about this stuff, I start thinking about times where I just did terrible at a show. That's where I went. But what you were saying, some of this stuff that's invaluable in the data that you can figure out is like our friend Mike Israel, a great mind in the sport, or well, in strength sports in general, and fitness and stuff. He came up with the term like max recoverable volume. I don't know if that was his term or whatever, but some stuff like this on the yoke or the farmers, right? Like heavy yokes traction. So it's not efficient for my training to put them in twice a week or every week heavy, right? So you have to start to figure out your max recoverable volume or your training frequency with that yoke or that farmers. And you're gonna notice, right? You're gonna notice farmers and yoke are very, very taxing on the body. So you need to start to notice these trends from your logbooks and your training. And then you need to start to structure yourself and set yourself up for success with that stuff. If you're trying to put in, if both of those screw you up and you're putting in a max yoke and then you got an 80% for crazy volume farmers, and that's just killing you, you're just driving yourself further in the hole, you're not creating positive adaptations, you're going down the other way. Now, if you start to hit it on the head, and this is why people hire in a coach, and this is what we're good at, is figuring out kind of where that threshold is for your athletes, is if we're like, all right, this guy, heavy yoke once a month, and then it's maintenance. Then we're good. And then you start to figure out, all right, where's the volume at? How many 60-foot runs at 80% can this guy do? How many can he handle and recover for the next lower body or event day? I think that is a huge thing, given that the technique is solid. And what I've seen a lot, and you might be able to attest to this, but what I see a lot, especially with the yoke, well, fuck, even in the farmers, is on show day, people can do some crazy shit. I've seen farmer holds, fucking 2-minute PRs from training because they're like crazy, thinking about killing people, and they're just hanging out. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So I think that a lot of that stuff, a lot of people will train it too heavy going into a show thinking that they have to just have that weight on their back, not understanding that adrenaline jump, and they say, athlete ready, set, go, you're going to move that thing.
One of the trends that you're going to identify is, so there's certain things for me, for example, yoke and farmers, I do not need to hit contest weight to peak for the contest. It's actually counterproductive for peaking, and I'll actually blow my wad and peak a little bit too fast. Overhead press, I need to feel a little bit above contest weight, fairly close to the show, and again, yoke and farmers is one of those things where my heaviest session might be 85-90% of the contest, and I could hit that 4 weeks out, and that might be optimal timing. So that's just one of those things you got to pick up on is, which one do I have to push? Yeah, what's up?
So, Bill and I were talking, is there a time in the peak phase, because we've been training separate lifts on separate days, we was like, man, we're gonna have to do this all in one day.
Exactly.
So,
That's the thing.
should we be training
No.
like that, or should
No.
we be like,
That's the thing. That's the nice thing about a peak. That goes back to what I was saying, the difference between strongman and powerlifting is all of these things, the 5 events, are going to peak at a different rate. You're going to recover from each of those at a different rate. And the magic sauce happens with figuring out how to pull back on each one of those at the right time so they all line up on the same day. So remember when I was talking about training the sandbags, doing something else for the meat and potatoes work while you practice the technique, right? You can do that for the requirements of a contest day. For example, maybe practicing your meals or spacing out your events more or practicing them closer together if it's going to be a small show and quickly ran. I would really try to study the requirements of the show at like a very baseline level and practice those rather than just simulating the contest fully. You could do a contest simulation with like 3 events, but I would never fully go 100% specified until the actual day of.
So like just from when you're done training all of the events?
What do you mean? So when I was talking about between singles, so I would say like, I was talking about like EMOM singles, right? Like one after the other with minute rest time or 30-second rest time, something like that. So that in itself would be like one set, right?
I think
They're
he's
just
talking
spaced
about.
out.
I think he's talking about like when should he stop training before the show?
Oh, yeah. So that actually kind of depends, like what we just said, how long you recover. So I would press as close to the show as I can handle, but I would carry as far away from the show.
Yeah. So it depends on how bad it taxes you individually, and then there's always going to be underlining navigational points based on your physiology, right? The CNS, the yoke, the farmers, it's very taxing on the CNS, the total body system, it's total body movement, right? We can press the log close to the show up into like a week because that does the least amount of damage relative to all this other heavy shit.
Can I
Does that make sense?
simplify it real quick in powerlifting terms? Squat and deadlift, really similar, right? So we might be able to push one on strength and push one on volume because strong is strong. If your body is getting strong, then it's getting strong in this lift, right? So you could practice a different capacity on the different lifts, but then when you peak, you recover on the same day.
Yep.
You're ready to go. Right? Doesn't mean you're not squatting heavy, but you're able to practice one from the other.
Yeah, so I would say, like a big guy like you, I would say something 2 weeks would be, that'd be pretty good for you. Now, if it's something, 2 weeks, rest, doing nothing, awful. Stay moving. If you're, say you got continental clean, there's nothing wrong with getting a set of 5 in at a 40% contest weight to practice your steps and your technique. But in terms of training it, you're a big guy, you might need that 2 weeks to recover. If you're, lightweight Phil, then you could go up to a week and you'd probably be pretty safe. Does that make sense? Natural versus PEDs. Natural needs more time to recover. PEDs, less time. All that stuff matters. Anything else? Let's list some shit. All right, we're gonna grab the logs. We'll go logs here, and then we'll do a little spiel on the log, and then we'll start moving.
You taking the lead on the log?
Bumper plates.
You taking the lead on the log? Hug for me? Got a hug for me? Love you, Bill. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick before we start this.
That should be going. Where's my boy at? He's gonna demo the log clean. My boy, dude, our boy. You know who our boy is, man. Act like you've been there before. Um, 220. Yeah, we'll just keep it light, and then whoever wants to get in and mess around. I didn't know.
Taylor, you waiting on the bathroom?
A lot of technique.
Yep.
Oh, great.
I'm only pissing.
Yeah.
So it should only take like 10 minutes.
Well, don't worry. The Italian stallion for that one.
Oh my god, the Italian style.
Oh, yeah.
I'm tired. Going pretty well so far? Going pretty well so far?
Yeah, that'd be good.
I was just trying to talk out my ass. Not think about what I'm saying.
Where's Enzo at? Want him to
Really get nervous.
demo the log clean. Can't speak without getting embarrassingly winded doing a log clean.
I'm gonna change my fucking t-shirt, I think.
Well, we'll get 'em.
Oh,
All right, hey, grab Enzo or Nate. I'm gonna have them guinea pig. So I'm gonna go over, I'm gonna tell or explain some of the terrible shit that goes on, and then we're just gonna say, yeah, that's terrible, and then expand on it.
sure.
All right, buddy, feeling strong? Those things. We're just gonna do a little clean. All right, so everybody ready to rock? All right, so I will explain this from the perspective that you already stuck at the log.
Which
And
you
then we're
do.
gonna fix it. So I don't know if you see this, but one of the first things we see in a macro sense of the log is they try to power clean. They go this and bicep curl, right? That's a good way to blow your biceps off. You're not gonna be able to do anything heavy, and then you're already kind of loading everything into your quads, which when it gets to the rack position, you're gonna be like this, which is a terrible way to press overhead because then you can't engage your hips, can't stack your spine, and then you're gonna end up rolling your heels off the ground, pressing off of your toes, which is, and then, which is bad position, right? So we're gonna teach you guys how to pin the log to your belly or your chest. This is all gonna be kind of relative to how big you are and how big of a gut you have or how washboard of abs you have or whatever you have. We're gonna teach you how to roll it up, okay? So we're just gonna do like 2 quick rounds. So we'll just kind of let him do this and we'll watch. Beautiful, beautiful. Now freeze on the next one in the rack position, and I'll show you the rack position because that's the thing of beauty for this guy. Elbows up, chin, eyes to the sky. He's pushing the log into his chin. Go ahead and drop it. Now, take home, just hang out. And just look pretty, man. You already. Take home's kind of somewhere in the, obviously this would be based on how big you are. Somewhere in the realm of shins near the handle of the log. Everybody gets in here too much and they have no balance when they get the log up, so they're falling all over. Wide. Wide. Now, this portion's a deadlift. We see too many times. Guys will get here and they go, huh. And then they mess with it, right? So, deadlift it all the way up and sit. Now, when we sit, it's like the squat portion, right? It's called lapping the log. We sit and lap. You want to get down low in your squat with that log. We do, depending on the size of the gut, you want to mess with your angle of your handles, okay? The angle of your handles is going to determine when you do a, what would that be, a 180-ish, some sort of a degree of rotation. When you do your roll, it will determine where your elbows are in your rack position, right? So if I'm like this, and my handles are pointing up like this, and I roll, and the log gets stuck here, I can't support the log, and I dump forward. The goal for the roll after the lap would be one rotation up beautifully into rack position. You don't have to bump and twist, right? Just make it efficient. So we usually go flat, leverage the forearm into the well, or point it down, depending on the size of you. That way, one revolution comes up, okay? So the reason why the log slides down your belly all the time is because people squeeze the log into them like this, or they just push their hips under, they don't do anything with their upper back. We are retracting our shoulder blades and pushing our stomach underneath the log, or into the log at least. So stick on your shirt or your grip shirt. And we want to stay back on our heels, and we turn this into this position right here I call the standing strongman incline. This is where we roll stuff up, and this is where we carry stuff, and this is how we get logs up. So, flat, sit, we want to pull our scaps back, tension down with our elbows, that way we drive our hips under the log. I don't come up on my toes, it's not this. We're not getting momentum here. We're creating a ramp to roll it up, like the pyramids were built on rollers. So here, flat, roll, Scoop the elbows under. Go ahead, go ahead. So you'll see all this stuff is beautiful on him. That's why I chose him for the demo. So he's not popping up with his toes. He's not cleaning it. He's not using his bicep. So biggest take home is get the shoulder blades tight. Push your stomach into the log. If you got a big belly, it's a huge advantage. Stay underneath you. Now, it will be a lot harder when you're leaner. It's going to create a lot of issues for you pulling that log in because you don't have a lot of surface area. These techniques are different based on person to person, but I like my smaller guys to stand wide. The reason being is when you're wide, you can lean back further. So we go, roll up, take a step in, and then we start pressing, okay? Anything, Taylor?
Yeah. So get in there and do it again. Let's go. Come on. Before you go, hold on. Watch his foot. It stays completely planted the whole time. He doesn't come up on his toes, and he doesn't go back on his heels till the toes are up. Okay? Just watch that part. Go ahead and go. All right. So let me give you something to think about in the next portion. This is one of those things that relates to everything. We want to move the weight in a straight line, whether it's a barbell, whether it's a log or a stone. The degree to which our hips and our knees bend behind and in front of the implement depend on the diameter of the implement. To ensure that it moves in a straight line, you basically ensure that the foot is completely planted with even pressure throughout the entire movement, and that will kind of guarantee that you don't go too far out in front of it or too far behind it.
Yes. So this is about manipulating the implements around your body or manipulating your body around the implements, okay? So that actually transfers into the next portion, right? So the press portion. When it's cleaned out, now when we go to press, you're going to fuck up your press if you don't have a good rack position. If you're not mobile enough to get into a good rack position, you need to handle that first. In Olympic lifting, we don't let anybody push far over their head unless they have a proper rack position, okay? We should probably take that trend into Strongman, but nobody ever does. We need to be able to have the eyes up, chin up, log into the neck, elbows up. They're not out here like this. We can't press a log like this, right? We have to have the neutral grip. Eyes up, and then we drag that log off of our chin, back over our eyes. Back. Bicep behind the ear at your lockout, if you're mobile enough. And that head goes through, okay? Now, wrist position. You don't want to stack straight up like a bench. You want to roll back like this. That way you don't feel like you're going to fall through your thumb on top of it. Press that. This guy's getting old. You might have to warm up. No, he's just going to do like a push press, okay? So we'll kind of get into a little bit of those. Push, yep. So this is light enough, like he's used to being primed for heavyweights. Go ahead and warm. Yep, good. So he'll throw that back pretty damn good. But it's an aggressive throwback, and head goes through, we punch. You know, you got it?
Can you do one where you go onto your toes too early and just show what happens? Because he went onto,
Okay, yep.
he went, he went onto it. I'll just show you because you're fucking stupid.
We're going to do I'll expand on this.
He went onto his toes at the appropriate time. It was when the log was at its highest and it was already moving in a straight line. If he would have came out onto his toes too early in the press, it would cause the weight to go back, forcing you to have to do one of those. Does that make sense?
So, mechanics-wise, it's okay if your heels leave the ground at the correct point. Everybody messes this up. They're like, well, the Olympic lifters, they got the heels out front. Yeah, that's great, but they do it the right way, okay? So, we want to have grounded, rooted contact. Heels, balls, foot, toes on the ground through the dip phase, right? So, if we're dipping and we're driving, this all has to be done on a stable surface. As soon as the heels come up, unstable surface, body down regulates force production. And you will blow out a meniscus or a patellar tendon or develop patellar tendonitis, as anybody that's pressed a log for a long time will start to understand when they do it incorrectly. It's okay for the heels to come up. given that you have enough force production to drive your body off the ground after the log has left your rack position. Where it gets bad, and this is where everybody fucks up. Rack position, elbows are too low. They dip, the knees come forward. The heels come off the ground. They roll forward. And I'm looking around, I said 90% of you guys have done this in your videos I've seen. Knees come forward, we start to press out in front, and it gets all funky. Or we're here and we press way, way back, and then you don't have a lot of variance in your power. Very, very small window for progression, okay? So, the mechanics. My coaching, my cueing style is a little different. I don't care if anyone thinks that I'm biomechanically accurate. I just say things to make you move better. That's my goal. I don't care what it is. I told my guys, butt back, knees out. Now, if our butt's back like this is a terrible position to press in, but they normally press like this. So if they try to go butt back, they're going to meet themselves halfway, and that is stacked underneath the log. We would like to have a nice stacked spine, hips under the log, knees are out, external rotation so we can drive through the ground using our quads and our glutes. That's the dip, right? So dip, drive. Now, biggest thing, pressing in straight lines. And same thing applies to the log. We want to press the log in a straight line and move our body around it. We don't want to press the log like this and throw it back behind our head with our delts. We want to use our triple extension and throw our trunk back on this standing strongman incline. Drive the log in a straight line and then move our head through and our body around that, right? So you have to get into this mode where you're throwing and catching your log. Throw it, head comes back, lock out, go. From the side. Log moves in a straight path. Does that make sense?
So I got two things. One, you talked about stack spine. Two, what kind of shoes should you be wearing? Because I've heard flat shoes and I've heard flat. So
There's no right answer. That depends on. Yeah, I've got guys that do flats against.
I would say number one, do not is if you have shit ankle mobility, don't add a heel, fix it. So if heels are popping up, you're like, well, I'll have to add an inch heel, and then you just load your knee joint even worse, and then it's not a problem. In general, if we want, let's say we had a good-ish log technique and we just want to get better at it. And of course, like you said, this comes individualized. If you have a harder time sitting back, it's a little easier with a flatter shoe. If we need more vertical leg drive, add the heel because we can facilitate more quads, more drive down, which creates more vertical thrust power.
I would say practice flat if you don't know, purely because the mechanics are the same, and if you really know the mechanics, you're like something like the log, you're generally going to get a little bit of an improvement on the squat shoe, and no one's fucked up enough where they can't do it barefoot. You can improve your shit enough to do it. It's just
Yeah, well, and that goes back to, in general, most people press, because the log is fatter, they press and they drop their knees forward, their heels come up. So going flat foot is going to facilitate the hips more. Now, the reason the rack position has to be perfect is if our elbows are up here, we can unlock our hips and stack spine. Rib cage down, good breaks, normal breaks. Right? We're loaded up here. We're not in a crazy arch. We're not in a crazy posterior pelvic tilt. Stacked, neutral position. Everything's tight and focused. That way, we go to press, we translate our leg drive through the trunk into the press. So it's just your normal breaks. Rib cage down, belly tight, belly punched out, feeling off pressure around the whole belt, or if you're going beltless, you're feeling off pressure just around your abs.
Can I touch on that one real quick?
Yeah, go.
So, just one of our differences here. Anything I don't have to cue on, I try to minimize. And so, on the stacked spine, I think as far as like the head coming through in the lockout, if the spine is fully stacked, the head should fall into place. And I find that the cue is accurate to put your head through, but it's so widely misunderstood that I almost feel it's not worth saying, and it's almost better to kind of teach. So the way I look at the braces, it's actually from the bottom of the butt cheeks to the top of the lats here, because the lats are going to depress, the glutes are going to be tight the entire time, and that's what's going to hold the hips and the ribs in place. You can brace all you want, but if I'm over this way and can't engage my lats, and if my glutes are out, right, I'm still braced, but the ends of the brace are not secured. So what that looks like is if I'm fully depressed in the lats and my glutes are completely activated and I'm fully braced here, I'm going to press, and just in doing so, because everything is already tense where it should be, my head is going to fall into place. Does that make sense?
Basically, yeah.
That's my take on the stacked spine.
rigidity of your spine
Yep.
will put you in the right area.
This is the top of your spine, so if it's neutral, it's going to end neutral.
I like that. Anything else you think we need to go over before we let them? Oh, good.
That's
Right.
a good
So
one.
that was great. So we were covering that, but we didn't go over that in both of ours, right? So when we get this trunk position back, okay, when I'm in this what I call the standing strongman incline, I break from the knees and lean back. This is all stacked spine. Now this without me even thinking about it was identical to what he said. The glutes are tight and my lats are packed and I'm locking down my scaps, but I still have this backwards trunk position so I can drive the log. And then if I'm here like this, if I just extend my knees, my head goes through automatically. So that works exactly to your point. Now, what you don't want to have, and this goes along with your T-spine mobility and your lat mobility and locking out things overhead. We're stacked here. I don't have my lat mobility. I'm going to open the rib cage up, expand the diaphragm, put my lumbar in a bad position. I'm going to lock that weight up. That's why a lot of times when you're doing like a strict overhead press, there's a lot of tension in your low back. That means your brace is shit. You're not stacked right. We don't want to do that now. You start getting your press up there. You imagine you're catching 1.5 times body weight plus over there with an unstable spine and this really long axis. And it cramps on that lumbar. Real easy to tweak a low back, okay?
So I actually like to talk about this one in the bench press because visually, whether you arch the T-spine or whether you arch the lumbar spine, if I look at a bench presser from the side, just at first glance it looks the same. It's just an arch. But it's a really good exercise for you to be able to check yourself on if you're extending in the right section of your spine, because you want to have the thoracic extended on the bench press and this to actually be neutral, even though just from appearance, because you arch from the butt to the shoulders, it looks like it's arched. It's actually, that section is neutral and you're arched around it. And so that's like one way you can fully optimize using your back and your lats in the bench press and to protect your pecs. But that's also just one of those exercises that's, it can be very complementary to the log if you're doing it in that way. But if you're not, it's really no more valuable than like dumbbell shoulder press because it's just working shoulders and triceps.
Yep. So it's just segmenting your spine, okay, right? Lumbar spine is straight up and down. Ish, a little bit of curve backwards, right? That's the load-bearing part of your spine. We don't want that to move a lot. Now the upper back is like this, normal curvature. Extension means upright, right? So we want to lock down here, and then we want to keep this, but extend the upper back. Okay, I didn't change my position here. I just extended my T-spine. What happens there? Your T-spine extends. It gives us room to drop our scapula. If we have pressure down, not all the way depressed, pressure down, flared lats, traps, mid-trap, low trap, all that's on, that is a stable scapula. That's how we get overhead without going twisting all over, okay? So that's a huge one there too. It's just on your own after this. We're not going to go into this, but T-spine mobility, lat mobility, that will help you here.
The sections will alternate. So if this is rigid, this is flexy, and this is flexy, and then this is rigid, and it just goes all the way up the body. And honestly, if you just displace one of those, the entire rest of the thing goes opposite of what it should.
Yep, exactly, right? Because your body's going to search for stability up and down the chain. One part gets loose. If I get loose, open scissor, right, and I'm trying to lock this out. Now my T-spine locks down.
Yep.
Everything's going to take a shit because it's doing the wrong rope.
How often you see a strongman or a strength athlete, turn around so you can see your back, they walk around and this is just like protruding right here, and they're almost like forward shoulder, but you can see my back straps all the way through. That's one of those signs that you're locked up and he's arching here, walking around but stiff there, so you can reverse that It needs to be.
So this goes so the efficiency from training, right? So after this, we'll wrap it up. We'll let you guys press. This goes to efficiency of the movement. I walk around like this too much. I don't know if it's lazy, whatever posture. So my low back always takes a beating when I'm pressing. So I eliminate a lot of the cues and I focus on drop the rib cage and break. So
That's when you do that shit.
Right, so where would I do that in prep? I practice all this shit here. Once it's primed up, I start putting the foot on the gas. Once I put the foot on the gas, I build some time, and I'm feeling pretty good. Then we start sending up heavy, or we start adding.
You don't want to make corrections during prep. You don't got time.
No, you want to focus on the specs of the contest and doing your job, right? So now if you can sit back a lot, then you're good. Start just working on pushing the knees out. You know what I mean? So figure out what you're good at, and then focus on territory. What's press? Anybody? Don't be afraid.
Let's go. You've been asking all the questions. Get up there.
I thought you were just deadlifting only, man. Okay. He's got a good deadlift. So this is okay. So we'll watch him and then we'll kind of correct him.
Yeah, do a single, just on your own. Just do one rep.
Yeah,
and
whatever one you want to
that's,
use.
hey, that's the man's love.
Oh no, can't use that. I won't use the latest one.
Go and sit down. Go and sit down.
All right, we're going to bump you over here. Now we're going to fix some of this stuff, okay? First one. Widen the feet up. Go in more. In. Good. Now, get the shins touching your lung. Now, when we start, roll the handles down like that. Now, normal deadlift. Let's do it like a normal deadlift. Great deadlift. All the way up. All the way up. All the way up. Sit there, okay? Now, shoot your knees under the log. Sit into a chair. Good. Now, what do we got to do with the log? We got to flatten this log up. So, now sit back down. Good. All right. Good. Now pull your shoulder blades together tight. Pull that log into your belly, and just stand up for me. Don't do nothing. Stand up. All right. Good. Go back down. All the way to the floor. All the way to the floor. Relax. Okay. So, what we just did there is we got the log. We taught him his ability to pin it to his belly. Okay. Now, the last part of the business you're gonna do is pin it. Once you get halfway up, lean back, roll it into your chin. Now, how you roll it? Let's go from here, shoot into the sky, look up. If you go too fast, you're going to hit yourself with the chin, and then you'll bleed.
It's time to bleed.
Yep. So all the way up. No, go back down. Where'd you fuck up? Deadlift. Do a deadlift. All the way up. Yes, good. Now get under it, knees under it. Sit. Turn that log how it's got to be. Flatten it out. Yep. Now pull it back into your belly. Yes. Now go. Taps. Roll. Now freeze. Go back down. Elbows up. So go all the way down. We're going to get it right. So do everything you just did, freeze in your rack position for me. So go ahead, deadlift. Good, knees under. Sit, fix your log, yep, good. Pull scaps in tight. Stand up and roll. Oh, you lost your belly, didn't you? Go back down. So if you lose your belly, go ahead, take a second. If we lose it, slides down, what's that tell you? Your upper back's up. Get your upper back tight. This is what an important thing that I tell my athletes. It's called rep-to-rep feedback. Don't say, oh my God, I suck, I'm a failure. Whatever. It's rep-to-rep feedback. You fucked it up. What do you fix to get the next rep better? That's what you gotta tell yourself. There's no fails, there's learning, right? That's what we're doing. Go ahead.
Hey, let me give you a cue real quick. You ever seen a bodybuilder show their lats on stage? And they show them, right? They come out, they show very wide, very long. When you clean it up, use your hips, show everyone your lats, just like a bodybuilder. Put it under the log.
Deadlift all the way up. Good. Sit. Tip the log away from you. Yep, pull it in. Scap, go. Roll up, freeze. Now, push it all the way in your neck. All the way up, push it up, push it up.
Show them your lats.
Boom. Big lats. Now, go back down the floor. All right, so now that was the rack position. You feel, everybody wants to stall here. You got to go that last couple inches. You have to force this stuff into the position you want. All this stuff is heavy. It's out in front of you. It's going to want to pull you into poor mechanics. You have to force it. Good.
I was just going to say this last portion right here, that is the thoracic extension that we're talking about is so important for all these lifts.
Easiest way to do it is exactly what he said. If you don't know, how do I extend my T-spine? Where are your lats?
Well, actually, okay, can I actually add to that? Because when you did that, you're flat here. So it's one of those things that's, it is correct, but I would reverse the order. I would say you know that the T-spine is extended when the lats are fully out, because you can't get your lats fully out if it's locked up, but you can still get them out. Now here, you can see how much more they're out.
Yeah, so if you flare those lats, you're gonna give yourself the room to extend
Yes.
the T-spine, right? Yes,
Yep.
okay, so reorder, yes, I like that. Now, go ahead and press. Get it right though, or else we're not gonna let you press. Deadlift, hip the log,
You deadlift with your biceps.
lower body side. Get it up higher, sit lower, sit lower, sit lower. Yes, good, pin it to the belly, now go.
Big
Roll,
lats.
lats, elbows up, push it, now go. Good, that's 3. Do it again, do it again. That's it, good, all right, go down. Not bad for the first time. So, what you're going to see, Rick, right? So, I'm going to start to wing the elbows out, right? So, just real tighten that movement. This guy's a power lifter, big deadlifter, so the press is going to be his worst one. So, that was pretty good. The fact that he's pliable enough for us to get into a decent position, okay? So, biggest thing is that short change on your rack position right
Is
here.
he deadlift only?
No, he does all 3, but he's a monster deadlifter. Relative to the others, well, he's pretty strong all over, right? But, yeah, I don't want to shortchange you, but another thing is a lot of the guys, they just kind of start to push the log out in front of them, right? Do we want to go over some straight pressing?
Strict.
Yeah, just for, I don't even think we.
I mean,
Who else? Want
It's
to go for a fresh one?
yeah, let's just get to lifting.
Yeah, that's fine. I said. I don't know, man. Which one, man? Which one? What do you got? Don't embarrass yourself. We grab the big blue ball. Push stones when he goes. Okay, good. Deadlift. All the way up. Sit, tip. Okay, so go back down. Okay, so that was a perfect example of when we have to form fit how much he tips the log based on his body style, right? So because he doesn't have a big gut, he can't just set it on his gut. He has to pin it high to his chest. So we have to change how he rolls, right? That log was tipped here. One roll caught him in the chin. So we have to have that log a little bit flatter and not tip down as much. And that way, if it's flatter, now we do one more roll. It's up to the chin a little bit easier, right?
Hey, before you grab the log, remember the order of the stack. Start with a thoracic extension, start neutral here.
Yeah, yeah, you can tip it on the deadlift portion, but don't tip it as much when it's on your lap.
Push this in, extend this. Nope, the other way. Yep, yep. No, this is neutral. Now go.
Good. One roll, yep. Now, if you ever get caught there, shift it. Put it where you need to be. Where the log handles go. Yep. Flare, extend, elbows. Go back down.
So one thing actually I've noticed that can help improve that rack position, rolling it into the right place so you don't have to have that adjustment. You gotta find, like everyone assumes, just grab it exactly centered. Well, for myself, if I favor it a little bit towards the top and just like an inch or so, and then come up, look how much more in the rack position than I am than right there where I'm centered.
This creates distance, forehand away. So instead of having his hands jammed up here, we're kind of packed in tight. His hands are far away, and now we can leverage up higher, okay?
So, how deep do you have to go? Does it care about like how deep you should go? Right?
Like the squat portion into the lap? Yes, it will. Yes, it will, right? So
There is a cutoff though, because you're not going to go ass to grass.
yeah, you're not going to go ass to grass, right? Because then the log will be way up here, right?
Yeah.
But it just depends, right? If you guys are lean like this, and you got to pin it higher to the chest, you're going to need to sit lower in order to pull straight back into the chest. If we're up high like this, and I can just, if I'm a big guy with big gut, and I can lap it and dip my gut behind it and then roll, then I can stay up higher. Does that make sense? Right? Another huge thing that we see in the rack position is everybody kind of pops that implement up with their delts, right? So the hard thing is learning how to keep the lats on and stable while relaxing the shoulder muscles enough to get the rack position up. So we don't want to push that log and have this huge gap delt to delt. We want it to be nice and form-fitted into the neck. Does that make sense? Do you have anything else?
That's going to be another one of those, like, you can check the box based on the thoracic full lat thing. They all kind of go together. One's not going to happen unless the other one is happening.
Yep,
Right?
oh, yep, I agree with that.
That makes sense?
All right, want to go again? Good. Okay, lats. Now come back and fix it. So come back down. If you mess up, go ahead and go down and fix it. So I think you had the good idea, but we got to go not as far up the log. What'd you say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep.
Grab it centered.
Okay.
Grab it right in the center. And when you move it up, you're just going to touch that tape line with your pointer finger. Okay?
Here?
Yep. Let's start centered. Okay. Lap it. Now climb up on the handle a little bit. Now go.
Roll, yep. Now elbows up, elbows up, elbows up, elbows in. Now press over it. Good. Down.
You see how much more his entire body was like actually under the log?
Now you want to come back out and do another breath? Yeah. So watch here, you go with, you want to hang, we'll go, just to see a contrast, okay? So, when you're learning how to do this, everything's tense, okay? So the hard part about these movements is learning how to stay stacked and tense in the lats while staying relaxed in the areas you need to be. You'll see the fluid difference here, go ahead, just go under the full thing. Rolls up, overhead. So go back to the rack position for me. Now you'll see this was the gap I was talking about here. So everything's extended, lats are out, nice and firm. This log is sitting on the top of his pec instead of riding on the delt across. Does that make sense there? So this is what I'm talking about for you. We want to get this position to where those lats extend the Incline and drop that log right on top of that collar. All right, go ahead and go down the pencil. Anybody want to try? Get in here. I got issues. Lots of issues, man. I know. All too well. Every fucking day with these issues, man. Fix them here today, hopefully. Taylor, you take this one. He's my guy. You take him.
Okay.
By the way, we just fixed his clean to that.
Okay. Go ahead and show me how you have the handles when you start. Just put it like you start.
I tend to, like you said, kick them forward a little bit more.
Give me like one more notch forward. No, I'm sorry, on the angle. Tip it. Right there. And then push back on the handle just a little bit. Right there. Okay, now I want you to think about this right here. Look at me from the side. When I stand up with the log, I'm gonna stay over it like this, and then drop straight down into it. Okay?
Okay.
You're just gonna push your belly into the log. And that's it. I'm just gonna do that. Stay over it. Drop straight down into it. Big belly. Maybe start over. Come down, all the way over.
That's
Look.
just the case if it's too low, right?
I want to show you the different, move out of the way. So you dropped your hips. This was perfect. You came down in the right trajectory, but then you went too low, okay? I want you to cut it about there. Okay, high hips. Your football squat, and then go from there, okay? Same thing in the start.
This is going.
One finger back on the handle, right there. Just drop straight down into it. Now breathe into it. Now go. Show us your lats. Cool. Only thing difference, maybe not go down so far on the legs.
right.
That's all.
Now, one cue I do use for the guys at the top is squeeze in, right? We have that log handle that's neutral. I say log handle points into the delt, elbow straight in front of the delt. It is like a wind-up, right? You know, like in a bench press, you tuck your elbows and then you kind of flare your elbows on the way up. You tuck them to keep it safe. I teach a lot of my guys, squeeze the elbows in tight with this rack position out there, and it also helps with that rigidity in the lats we're talking about. That way when we go overhead, we twist and punch a little bit when we get up there. It's just a little bit that you can add to the triceps as a lockout. Anything on
That's a good point. Yeah, a lot of people you see, they end up locking out here and will maybe push their head through by retracting the traps, but you want to maintain that full shoulder function to fully
So
rotate.
you see this rotation that he has here. When he rotates like this,
Look at
this
my lat.
locks down all of your scapula, okay? If we're in here locked out, our scapula move all around. If you guys turn and internally rotate and punch out and reach, you'll feel your scaps
See-
dialed in.
Same thing with it adds to the stack too. So if you watch how I press dumbbell, it'll be like this. I'll press it, and then after my elbow is locked, it'll continue to go up because I stack that lat under it.
Reach and punch. A good cue, like for the circus that I use, or even this, reach your scap towards your elbow. Boom, punch it. And then everything's firmed up, okay? Your stability at a joint is all the muscles pulling tight around the joint. It's not just a random fixed position.
At the correct ratio too.
What's that?
At the correct ratio too.
At the correct ratio, yes, right? So that's what I was saying, that like when, like for you, we want you to relax your scaps a little bit. We don't want you to completely pull them down in your back pocket because then your arms are going to have to be here, right? You don't want to be shrugged up and then have that high delt and then the logs here. Just relax. Flare the lats, elbows up without shrugging the shoulders and activating the traps, right? That's what we got to fix.
You guys like how Nate back there, my diet client, is just eating ice cream in the back corner like it's no big deal?
Yeah. Cheating on his diet in front of coach. Hey, yo, I'm going to get him. Do I go? Come on out. You go after him. Oh, yeah, I'll let you get a hold of Jay here, too.
Okay.
Go that guy. Start you there. We're good. All right, so bring that log all the way into your shins. Tip those handles down to the floor. There you go. Now, deadlift straight up. Okay. Now, drop your hips and belly back behind the log. Okay. Shift your weight back onto your heels a little bit. Good. So go like this, or go over like this. Shift back right onto the heels. Yes, good. Now sit a little bit lower for me. Right there. Pull your shoulder blades together. And then stand up and roll. Oh, not bad, not bad. All right, go back up. So, real good universal concept that is hard for green athletes to learn, right? We want to bring this log up to here with our hips, right? So the arms are just facilitators. So, the hips a little higher than you did. When you get into the body, I want you to think about, you're going to throw the log up with your hips. We're not curling with our arms. Just pin it to your chest with your arms. That's all this is doing. Throw with the hips, and then roll, okay? All the way up. All the way up, deadlift. Up, sit behind it. Good. Pull it in shoulder blades. Throw with the hips. Roll. Better, not bad. Go ahead, press. You got it. Go. Oh, that's easy for you. Go ahead, go down. All right, now you want to take it for a couple?
Yeah. Do exactly what you just did, but keep pointed at the ceiling like this. Look at me. Keep them just like that. Yep.
Okay.
Point that forward a little bit. Hips higher. Okay, good. Just drop straight into it. Keep your elbows high. Oh, start over. Go ahead.
So this is good to pay attention
Go ahead and pick
to.
it up.
So I tell a lot of
Pick it.
people, like when
Okay.
you're in the gym and you're training
Drop
with a
down
trainer,
to about there.
oh, he's going.
But you want to keep your elbows
When I'm done
here.
lifting, if I
Yes,
got an
yes.
extra hour, I sit
Good.
around, I watch
Now
the
come
end,
up through.
start to see all this
You
shit
feel
that
this a little bit
do
easier?
wrong in another
Okay,
person.
let's do
Maybe
one
they have
more.
different
Just one more.
biomechanics, and you can pick up on a
Now
lot
right,
of stuff.
right on the start.
This is
That's
cool
what I
having
go ahead and
both
stand
of us
straight
here
up.
because you
Go,
guys
no,
will see
no, just put it
coaching
down.
progression.
Just stand straight up.
So a guy that's
So
if we
straight up here so that it touches your hips,
kitchen sink at him,
and then
it's just going to be word
right
match.
back down so your elbows
So we have
don't
to start to hone in
change.
on cues.
Same
So
exact
I won't
position.
coach him on stuff that he's doing kind of correctly. I want to fix the entire thing to start, and then we'll start honing in on
Elbows
stuff.
up. Elbows up. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and put it in your lap. Just go ahead and put it in your lap.
You're going to screw yourself up.
Yep.
Focus on one
Yep,
thing. All right,
yep.
so I got
Good.
that long.
Look forward. Look forward. Look forward.
Roll. All right,
Now go.
good.
Now go.
Awesome checklist. Go to the next
Better?
one, okay?
Right? Feel better?
Yep.
Yeah, just don't look at me.
So, when you're here, look up. Put that log into your chin. Push it over your eyeballs. Hey, right there. Good, good, good. Want to try some more weights, or what do we want to do? Let's do it. I'll spot you. You'll be all right. Good.
Elbows up. Yes. No. Put it in your lap first. There you go.
Oh, hey, not bad. There you go. Try back. Nice job. Good. Drop it down in front of you. Yep. Not too bad, kid. Good. Good work, man. Yeah.
Good job.
Now that's pretty damn impressive for one of the first times I can tell he's done it long. I need to warm up for this.
I couldn't do that the first time I did a 12-inch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're awful. Jay.
Oh,
All right, Taylor. Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Yeah. All right, Taylor. Go ahead and. Jay gets
Get
all,
in there.
you know, he's a crazy guy. Rides motorcycles all the time.
Hey, your shoes untied. Get in there. Get in there. All right, let's start over. So, I agree with you on the deadlifted all the way cue. Here, let me get in there real quick. So, we talked earlier about moving the body around the implement, right? And it's all kind of your hip and your knee distance travel is based on the diameter of the implement. So if we deadlift a barbell all the way, we can come straight up with it. I am deadlifting this all the way by being here, okay? Because it's over my heels, it's still the center of gravity. If I go like this, it's now all of a sudden all the way out in front of me, and we just learned about that chain reaction. If I start with it earlier in the lift, look how low my elbows are because of that. Right, so deadlifting it all the way doesn't mean standing straight up. It means the glutes are locked out, the brace is held, right? The stack is still done. It's just adjusted because of the implement. So I want you to deadlift it, and I want you to just try to think about lengthening through here, okay? But keep your torso a little bit over it. Point them. No, start up. All right. Get in there. Step an inch back. Now shove your knees to the bar. Now look up and lock this in. Okay, now lift it. Now put it in your lap. Elbows higher. Clean it.
Hey, that was beautiful.
You didn't press it.
So that's pound.
You didn't press it. I'm just
Now,
kidding.
if you guys have done a heavy ass clean, very good. If you guys have done a heavy clean, or a heavy clean and press, if that clean sucks, you get to hear you go, oh fuck, I can't move this weight overhead.
So fucked.
If the clean is easy, you're like, I'm gonna smoke this all day, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole mental game. Yeah. All right, I like that. Does anybody else want to press? If not, we'll go ahead. Let's get in here. We're gonna be real hard on this one because she's a veteran of the game, so.
What would you press in?
Not this game, but most of the other games.
Like I tried every time when I was
Okay.
the numbers.
Now same thing. So back away from the.
Is it locked now?
Right there. Tighten the upper back. Shove the shins in. There we go. Yep.
Is
Right there. Yep. Now sit straight down. Elbows up. There you go. Now drive the hips on her. Lean back. Roll. Good. Now flare the lats. Extend the upper back. Now bring the elbows in. Yes. Good. Now press back over the eyes. Oh, you almost had it. That's all right. Go. Now feel the tip forward. So that was just good. Go a little more centered, and that'll drive back. So you got to be thinking you're going to rip your chin off with that log. Slide it off your face. Or off
sometimes
your
you do.
Not off your face. Don't touch your face with the log. Good. Straight down. Scaps. Elbows up. Hips under and roll. Good. Yeah, that's better. Now go ahead. Drive it back. Awesome.
way better.
Good. Not bad.
Yeah.
Now, so some like balance issues right here, right? So this is just obstacle. going out in front of her. She's pressing and all the mechanics are good, but once we learn how to kind of settle into this counterbalancing of the weight in front of you, that's when we can get a good smooth press. You want to get one until we get a nice little perfect balanced one here?
Take a while, but sure.
Oh, you're right, you're right.
No, that was,
So,
this is the
and
next
it's a
one.
huge thing too. So Hannah, when you go here, when we go, so I didn't even tell her, she did the dip and drive very, very nice, which means nice and mobile through the ankles and the knees and the head. When you come up, you're coming up straight with your trunk. And you're pressing around yourself so it's ending here. Come up, drive, throw the head back out of the way, press, and then go through, okay? So T-spine, yep, there you go, knees, good. Good, scaps, elbows. Good, hips roll, eyes up, good. Throw the head back. Ooh, there it is, good, 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 good. So fix those back. So that was an easy job for us because she had A through, you know, whatever the hell, I'm not good with the alphabet, but a lot of that stuff.
3.
She had a lot of that stuff locked in, so we only had to deal with, you know, all the other, we only had to deal with a couple of things, so easy fixes, right? Now, that's kind of a macro version of what you got to do with yourself. We have to just go segment by segment. If you're trying to fix the angle of the log and the foot position and the lap and the upper back and the elbow position and the scaps, and you're not mobile enough, you try to do it all at the same time, you're not going to get anywhere. Focus on one thing, leave each one with a positive note. Are we done with press? Yeah?
I don't have anything. Everyone good on press? Get
Let's
in
go.
there.
Well, I'll start here and then we'll work over here. All right. Get it.
Okay, okay.
Go ahead. Hold on. He's going to tell you what to do.
Okay, lift it.
Lift it up.
Go ahead and start with higher hips. Right? Yeah, right there. Pull that thing into you. Tip it forward a tad. Yep, a little bit higher hips. Right up there. Pull it into you. Pull it in with this muscle here. Higher hips. Stop it. All right, now lift it. Put it right into your laps. Keep the elbows to the ceiling. To the ceiling. All right, now go. All right, let's try it again. Stand all the way up. Just seemed a little hesitant, and go ahead and start from there. What I want you to try to do is you're picking the weight with your legs, right? Like kind of like a leg extension. Okay? So keep the hips high, but the knees over the bar. Now lift it. Yeah, that's a good position. Now elbows straight up. Okay. Go ahead and start over real quick. Can I point something out? This is actually a common mistake I see is letting the belly drag on the log so that it tips backwards when you want to keep it tipped forward. You see that?
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yeah, so it's just basically you're going to start to, you're deadlifting this up, you're going to start to drag the log on your stomach and it flattens those handles out, okay? So the angle he starts with is the angle that he wants to clean with.
Yeah.
So if he starts on this angle, that's where he wants to start the clean. Does that make sense?
So the log sits here. It's going to drag and roll if it sits higher up the leg.
I always
Makes
felt
sense?
like I always pictured like I had like a saucer dish right out here.
Well, we're stacked, right? We're stacked over the.
Now we're stacked over, right? It's through the center.
Go on
gravity
through your
right here,
femur.
And then my trunk is over, and now everything's right in the center line. And then I roll back, okay? So you have to keep that log away, keep the log away from you to get your position, and then it's tight into you. You don't have to stay really rigid and tight the whole way when you're bringing the log up.
Try that again. Stay over it. Pull it back into you. Hips higher.
Hips higher.
Pull it into you. I'll lift it. Elbows straight up. Keep them right there. Dip down into your lap. Let me take your elbow.
Yes, and I'll pull it back into your stomach. Good.
Now go.
Good. Elbows up.
Through.
Elbows in.
There you go.
Eyes up. Good. Now press. That's it. Good.
Perfect.
Very good. Very good.
Now do one without us talking. Just put it all together. Stand straight up. Yep. Tip it forward. Tip the log forward.
Other way. There you go. Good.
Look. Great job.
Got it.
Make some more sense?
Absolutely.
Cool. Good job.
This was cool because I feel like we'll see a guy like this, and I'm did this. We already wrote a whole program for him. We're like, he needs this. We got the blue ball. Logan, what'd you do with it? All right. Want me to, I can roll this back. You want to just go right here with your, he's going to demo the stone overall technique, and then we're going to transfer that into some, kind of get some sandbag, and then we'll do some stones if we want to do some stones. If I roll this forward, is that okay?
Good.
Or we can just move it all the way. Don't matter.
Yeah, we gotta do the feet. Hey, get over here. No, not you, Jody. I wouldn't talk to you like that. Matt, get over here. Move this shit. God, you have the worst athletes. Just figure it out. Where's my,
Thanks, bud.
Thank you. You're a peach. Where's the ball? Am I missing it? Am I stupid? Thank you. Thank you, son. So really it's pretty much the same thing we've been doing, just a larger diameter in the implement. So does anyone have any questions so far on the whole concept of moving your body based on the diameter of what we're trying to lift? Anything? Right into it? Okay, cool. So stones are obviously going to be your biggest diameter of implement that you're probably going to lift. And so that would mean that your hips and your knees are probably going to travel the most distance. Again, maintaining that full foot is going to ensure that you can lift the stone in a straight line. So it's a perfectly round object, ideally, and sometimes it's up to as big as 22 inches. So that's quite the fucker to lift in a straight line, right? So our body's going to have to accommodate that quite a bit. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go through the common mistakes. Pretty similar to log, actually. It all comes down to the full foot. So let's see here. Enzo, this is you, right? So he pulls it all the way into his lap and is kind of almost on his toes. It doesn't actually appear that it's on his toes, but you can tell that the distribution of the weight, he is on his, heels, not toes. Yeah, because he's pulling back in that direction, which causes a very slow pull off the ground, right? So the knees have to be forward and the hips have to be back to pull that in a straight line, just like we've been doing with the log, right? Next section up, we've got it into the lap, and it's a really heavy stone. We're trying to get it onto the platform. The platform's a little bit in front of us, so we have that incentive to move it forward, and we're coming forward too early, right, and struggling. We've all been there, right? That makes sense?
The heels popping up is probably one of the most common,
Yeah.
if not the most common thing.
Yeah, and so what that results in is the hips being in front of the center line of the stone, right? If we draw an equator around the stone, that center line, if our hips are in front of it, then all of a sudden I'm not moving the stone as tall as I could or as upward as I could, okay? So what's the next section after that, actually loading it? I'm sorry, I guess that would be the next section. So the second one would be coming here too early, and then the next one would be coming there too early, right? Everyone on the same page so far? So
Can you go over one
yeah,
that I see like a lot of like just hand placement?
yep.
All that? Are you?
I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna go from big to small. Kind of work down a little bit. So, in order to get the stone to the highest point, we want to be on a full foot here. Here is appropriate to get up on my toes, okay? So I like to train, like if you're just off season trying to develop your stones, I like to train to the highest height that you can do to maintain a full foot. And you just focus on that more and more, maintaining that and getting higher and higher while maintaining a full foot. It's just kind of like adding a belt or a squat shoe. If you get that down, you can add the toes very easily, and it's going to add a few extra inches.
This ties back into the log, right? So we want to get most of our triple extension, if not all, before the heels come up. The toes are added. Now, if we get up on the toes first, force production's gone, leverage is gone, we can't get back how we're supposed to.
That's a really good point. Triple extension doesn't happen at the, first of all, everyone familiar with triple extension? Okay. It's toes, glutes, and shrugging up here, right? So if we're trying to get and implement as high as we possibly can, we have to have all those things fully contracted to get it higher, right?
Knees, ankles, hips, 3.
It doesn't happen at the same time. It happens in order, right? So first it's the glutes. The glutes bring us up to here. Then it's the traps. The traps bring us up to here, and that feeds right into the toes. So that's why, like, this is much more of a velocity-based and technique-based lift than a absolute strength lift.
So where everybody gets it wrong is they start driving the hips, they don't extend the knees whatsoever, and then they get to here, and they're extended at the hip relative, but they don't extend the knees, and then they just roll in here. And this is the end of their stone.
And you get caught on a platform. You should not be getting caught on a platform unless it's a, extremely heavy stone that's max effort to a low platform, or a stone to fucking 60 inches. Otherwise you should be blowing right past it. So let's talk about any questions so far? Okay. So this is where, Enzo, you need to pay attention. So again, going back to lifting in a straight line, knees are going to have to be a certain degree forward, hips are going to have to be a certain degree back. My favorite cue for picking it off the ground is actually pressing my legs into the ground, okay? Everyone good with that so far? I went over that a couple times. All right, so let's get into the hand placement. We've got the equator drawn in our head. I want as much surface area as I possibly can to be touching the stone. So I can't do it, but like ideally if you can do like the fucking, that thing, yeah, everyone else can do it, cool. So hand stretching is important, full range of motion between your fingers is very important. And the way that you bend down to get the stone is very important, because if I bend down like this, then it's very hard to get into position. So I need to break here and here at the same time to get down to the stone, right? And I'm extremely wide, trying to shove my fingers in as far as I can, to press it in as far as I can. And I'm literally trying to lift every fucking pound that I can off the stone with each individual finger, okay? So there's actually not as much inward squeezing as there is pressing against the stone and just staying tight against it. There's not much of this in the back. It's more kind of a stabilizer through the pec, if that makes sense.
Now, if you get this wrong, you will end up with, that's not a bicep peak, that's the top of my bicep tendon. And before I met Taylor, I was trying to conquer a 400-pound stone. I took my bicep. So that little stuff, that pulling and squeezing motion tenses up your bicep, and in a partially flexed position with a stone is havoc on that bicep.
And pulling back on it. If I'm pulling anything but straight, there is a slight extra torque on the bicep that's kind of against how it inserts. Whew, it's getting sweaty in here, huh? So, where did I leave off? Fingers. Got the fingers. Everyone good with the grip? Makes sense. Pretty obvious, right? So, now we're in the lat position, right? We picked it off the ground. I like thinking of going for a swim as I bring my legs together so that my quads are directly under the stone. Because one of the things that we have happen that we talked about was the hips coming in too early, right? Well, the idea is to get tall. If I get my quads completely under it, a couple things happen. All of the force that I can produce is going straight up into it, and I'm allowing more range of motion for my hips to go into the stone, okay? So if I'm here, my hips can only go this far, right? If I'm here, look at this. Look at how much more distance is there. Hang on, I'm gonna get to that. You better settle down because I'm gonna get to that. So, thank you. That leads me into my next point, the going for the swim, okay? This really depends on the height that you want to load to. If it's a low weight stone to a high platform, you're going to want to favor a little bit more to the outside. Think of a clock, right? So if I want to get it up higher, it's going to typically be a lighter stone, smaller diameter. So I'm going to be sitting at like 9 and 3, right? More here because I have that strength to rip it up to here. But then we get into larger diameter stones, lower platforms, heavier weights. We're going to have to go more over top. So we get into that part. We go for the swim. We climb over top. Just generally, I like to think 10 and 2 for the hands. Now, notice what I'm doing. Arm angle is different from hand angle. I don't want to go here. I want to go here, okay? Because think of what I just said about off the ground, lifting every pound you can off the stone. I'm doing that here, and that's what's going to allow me to get it really, really tall, okay?
Now, if you look at what he did with the hands over, if we're looking at, where's that, Enzo? Here's that diameter.
It's a ball.
Circumference of the stone, more surface area by turning the hands down.
Yes.
The body's in contact. Now,
More
you guys can see this from like my view. He's so good at this. He has tension in the lats and through the spinal erectors the entire time he's doing this. But he's a pretty elite stone lifter, so I just want to say that. Go ahead.
So the maximizing the surface area, yeah. So that's another thing that's happening from walking the quads in. So I'll actually, if you go watch some of my heavier stone loads, this is what I struggle with because it gets to that 22 inches and I have a hard time gauging how close my legs are. So between being tired and it being too big to tell where I'm at, I kind of cut my stance a little bit too wide, and you'll notice I have space here between me and the stone, and it'll go like this. I'll go here, and then it'll slip out, and I'll have to really grind. Whereas pretty much every rep up until then is going to be narrower, and then there's no space here. I can close that gap. I can get a more upright thoracic spine position, which means I can crawl over the stone more and ultimately get it much higher. That all make sense?
Now, what it is, I'll let him get a breather. While he is extending his T-spine with that stone, when I learned stones and I was young in the game, I thought, hey, it's stones, you have to do them with a rounded low back. It is what it is. If you break, then you're not supposed to do strongman. What he's doing, when he extends that T-spine, he can actually stack his lumbar spine into a neutral position and use that stone to increase his intra-abdominal pressure, which aids into the forces that you push against your belt, or if you're going beltless, you can push into it.
That's what, going back to breaking at the knees and the hips at the same time, because if I come here, yeah, you can maintain a neutral-looking spine, but it's still loaded if I pull up like that. But as soon as I involve my legs and press here, then I can keep a neutral spine and my legs are taking the load.
Now, can we talk about, this is a huge thing for everybody, right? You go to load your stone, it slides down your belly, right? We've probably all had this done. Can you talk about the pressures with your lats or your scaps or your arms? How are you doing those when you go into your extension with the stone?
So general rule, for the most part, there should very minimal retraction this way in the back when we're talking about max lifts or compound lifts. It's all going to be depression this way. Does everybody see how I'm just going straight down? I'm not going forward or back. So it actually starts right here. If you'll notice, when I walk up to it, I'm jamming my shit down pretty hard like this. The lats are engaged. I'm pulling from all the way down here, keeping my shoulders down. I break as I lift it. That's maintained the entire time. So there's no inward pulling. There's no clamping. There's really, everything's already contracted and in place. So it's actually a stabilizer.
Right, so if he's forcing his gut into the ball
Yeah.
or into the stone and he's depressing, that is the same as the stat in our log.
Yes.
Now he's rigid through the spine, so his hip power can transfer directly into the stone, and we don't see a lot of guys, they go to stand up, the hips shoot back, and they round their spine. That's all their power that was supposed to lead into a vertical stone is gone.
Yep. Yeah, so right now what I'm thinking about is keeping this depressed like a dumbbell pullover, right? Like a lat pullover. Staying here, down, and then I like to, it really depends on the femur length of the athlete, but you'll see me do this a lot where I kind of shoot my hips up and then come through. It's kind of that ramp. I think about it like a step ladder. I'm giving this stone a higher place to sit and giving my hips range of motion to push into the stone. Any questions so far? Got one more thing on stones. Any questions? Holy shit.
All right, so while you take a breather, we have some 50, 100, and 150 sandbags, and some bigger sandbags and some stones. So I think, do you want to break up and you take stones and I'll stay out here with the bags and stuff, so that way we can get more people moving?
If you're new, if you've never loaded before, stay out here. If you've loaded before and you know what you're doing with tacky and stuff like that, feel free to load stones.
Any of my cows that don't have a show, you guys want to grab the little baby sandbags and bring them out?
Ready for one last point? And we get to lifting? Okay.
Now, again, while he's catching his breath.
Go ahead.
This is,
Is that mine?
so I lifted stones for years, and I stalled out at the 400 pound. It took my bicep. It's my nemesis to this day. But I was lifting completely ass backwards, right? So this is kind of like a little side tangent, but you have to search for the best answers you can as an athlete. I figured myself I got good at learning all this stuff. I thought that I could just let my body tell me the techniques, and I saw him load the stone. I'm like, hey, this guy has it figured out. So we brought him in to do this originally, like a year ago, whatever it was.
On the day, yeah.
But what's cool about this sport, and strongman's like this even more so than powerlifting, these guys are cool as hell, a lot of them. I reached out to him, he's like, I would love to do a seminar. And you get a lot of these high-level guys, you're afraid to reach out and talk to them, but he knows more things not to do with a stone than you're ever going to learn. So he's going to know what you're messing up already, and all these little pressures and stuff. This is all gold mine stuff that transfers over to every single thing. He'll figure it out when we do the sandbags and everything. I just want to say that. Go.
Last one. All right, just a little review. We're moving everything in a straight line. We're giving our hips distance to create power and just range of motion into the stone, right? So it travels upward. But now we've got one last portion. So if I just do this, I still have a slight degree of pushing my hips too far forward under the stone, causing me to lean back, shorting me a few inches, and every inch counts. So that was supposed to be a sex joke. So I'm going to shorten my hips. I'm going to, this is actually something I didn't pick up in strongman, I picked it up in wrestling. So when someone takes a shot in wrestling, you hit them with your hips and you meet them with the pressure, right? And you shorten that distance. So I'm going to do that same thing here, except instead of a downward pressure, it's upward. So I'm here, as soon as I load, I'm going like this, I'm shortening my hips through, okay? Does everyone see what I just did there? So it's not just hinge back and through. It's hinge back as long as you can and push through as short as you can.
So watch, do the first part of your extension. Look where his knees go. It's butt back knees out like our dip, but now he does it in reverse. The knees go out. What does this do? It shortens the distance between full extension and when your hips are flexed. Does that make sense?
It makes the force go up instead of
And this also, in terms of his hip, he moves his body around the stone.
Yeah.
He drives his hip under the stone and then up into the stone, or however he'll explain that better. But shortens the distance, right? It's all universal concepts, right? Our dip and our drive is the same. Dip, drive, stone. Right?
This is a little bit of a hard concept to grasp until you actually feel it. Here's one good little movement that you can do. Goblet position with a kettlebell, just unweighted, whatever. Stand fairly wide in a neutral stance. Hinge back long, and then just pinch your glutes together to come forward. You see how it was long back and short in? So it's just a nice little activation thing that you can use to feel that. This concept that I'm talking about of shortening the hips is bag toss. Throwing is that's where you're going to have that as well.
Can you just touch on real quick? So a lot of the new guys,
Yeah.
they front squat the shit out of the stone.
Yes.
Can you talk about obviously why, but how to fix that and how to not fall into that trap?
Yeah.
Because everybody, so you're going to get down, and a lot of guys will remember their logs, so they sit too low, right? We saw a lot of the guys do that. They trap it to their chest, and they're way down here. I don't even know if I get down there without a warm up, but way down here, and then instead of hips high and low like Taylor was doing, they come here, and we go, front squat and low. Way harder, way less leverage, right? So,
Yeah. So,
So is that when your heels tap off?
a lot of times too, right? So because you want to get your hips involved, but you're in a front squat position, your hips are too low relative to the stone, so you try to get more hips, and then we're stuck here. And now, this is about the extent of it. If somehow you can do a little some voodoo thing, then maybe you might get it on the platform.
it was a little bit of a mind fuck the first time I started playing around with this because you're like, well, that's a stone. If I raise my hips, it's going to roll out of my lap. That's stupid.
Yep.
But I'm not just raising my hips up. That would be true if I just, think about it, if I just went up like this, yeah, it's going to fall out. But I'm going back, so it's actually getting more secure.
It's like a
doing
teeter-totter, right?
Yeah.
He goes back, but the weight's still forward, so everything's balanced.
Yeah,
It's
so,
not just up blindly tipping forward.
so the front squat thing can happen from a couple different things, and I think the two common ones are one, mental. You're just kind of, it's just kind of a weird thing to wrap your head around. The other thing would be grabbing a little bit too low and just having to, you don't give yourself the opportunity to do that if your arms are not in the right place. It's fine. No, no. Go look at look at Graham Hicks loadstones. He's so over the top. He's going to be more over the top than someone with long arms, just because you have to make contact with the stone with your entire arm.
So I would argue that if we're slipping with the short arms, that tells us our pressure in the stomach and our T-spine extension is off, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, so we'll mess with that. We'll try to fix that here.
yeah.
We'll have him look at you before you're gone, and then he'll fix that for you.
Any questions?
Let's start loading. So,
I guess-
go ahead, go.
One of the main components of this is keeping a full foot. So I train this, in that here and here. I'm training it barefoot or flat because the elevation is only going to help, right? Can I just quick one thing on one motions? Okay, you're going to try to pull yourself with your pecs down to the stone. You're going to deadlift it to your dick, and then you're going to squeeze your butt and take it for a ride. I know it sounds silly and simple, but that's all one motions is. No rowing. Just literally, it's the weirdest thing. Deadlift it to your hips. As soon as it touches, just go for a ride. That's it.
Yeah, so this is something that stumped me for years, is I could one motion technically way better than I could do a lap and a load.
Mm-hmm.
Because it pinned my hips high and it took all my front squatting mechanics out of it and allowed me to drive my hips. So for a couple years, I basically had the same one motion as I did a lap and load, and I just thought that I was dumb.
Well, you are, but
I was. That's why I found him, yes. So let's get out here and start loading some stuff.
cool.
If you want to tack up, we have tacky, don't touch anything and fuck anything up because these bars are expensive. But we got a tacky wash-off station out back, Taylor will handle you back there. And then
Tacky
if you
does
want
not
to
go
learn
in circus
more about
dumbbell
this,
ends.
what did we say?
I said tacky does not go in the circus dumbbell ends.
Yeah, don't you might have seen my story. If it was any of you guys, fess up.
You're gonna be in Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be here. Yep, 2 o'clock. If you want to learn from round 1, we got like all the way down to like I don't know what that was, but small things. Come on out.
All right.
Now, do you guys want to? I would say the bread and butter would be with him.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, start. You can do whatever you think you need
Jesus,
to do.
dude.
All right, so go back down.
Wait, no.
Treat this like a stone. When you're doing your sandbags, shift left to right. Walk your hands in. If you can put it up, you're going to have in your fingers
3 threes.
over
And then
of
the
your
middle
hands.
is
That
5
way,
minus
it'll
2.
be a nice, easy, big job of shooting your knees forward. We want to be here. If you're deadlifting or anything like that, we don't want to be in a vertical position. It seems counterintuitive.
What's
But
that?
if we're here, as
that's
soon
okay.
as that bag leaves the ground, you're going to be vertical with your shin. But you've
Am I
also
supposed
added
to
your
throw
quad
this
in off
fucking
the floor,
microphone on?
right? If we're deadlifting with a vertical shin, it's all low back and hips and hamstrings. Same thing here. Whatever. Go ahead. Just get the hands up. Yep. All the way in. If you feel like you can go more, go more.
Treat that bench this way at all, or?
That's it. Yep. Over. Hips up. Okay. All right. Okay. So come back down. So a little front squatty. What we want you to do, once you trap, you press your scats, okay? And then hips come up,
I'm loading here.
and then they come forward. It seems weird. That's the first part to get. You're like, I'm going to shoot my hips back, and it's going to pull me forward. But if we shoot our hips back here, the weight's
It
counterbalanced
also
here, right over the
means
center of our foot.
in
Then we
mean,
drive our hips way up there for you a little faster. These bags, you can get chalk on your hands if you need to. It's a little easier. So get trapped. Hips up, hips forward. Come back down. Now, once you guys start to get the timing of this, once you feel like your pressures are correct, that's when we start flying, right? That's when we start getting aggressive. So here, we come up, boom, go. The biggest thing is when you fire, don't lose tension. So over, good. Go. Good. Now, it's a sandbag, so you're not going to be able to roll it up. Now, this will transfer to like a carry, okay? So that we can show you how to carry. If we're carrying, we would go, I know this is getting a little bit far away, but this will transfer to more things. When we go on top, you can take more of a, whatever that is, a 9 and a 3 position, hips high, and now we're pinned. And you just stay in this standing strong incline, and that's where we move. We don't want to. Flex what portion? If it's time to extend it over something, then yes. If we're moving with something, back, slight bend in the knees, and we're tracking with our heels. You're pulling with your hamstring. Okay? That's how you move with implements. Now, let's say we're running up to a yoke. Here, extend, right? If you want to take a second, chalk the hands, chalk the forearms, make that easier for you. Anybody else? Get in there. Yeah, get a little aggressive. So, bring feet in. Get that. Now, right? Your back pocket. Yes. Now, hips high. Go. Boom. That's it. So, now try to mimic that progressively heavier, okay? Wherever you want to go. That's the one something 25. Try that one. Now, we don't have to go individual. You guys can hop in there and fuck around. We'll coach y'all. All right, walk forward. Walk forward with the feet. Good. Now, get the hands, that arch of the foot. Yep. So walk your whole body forward. scaps, back pocket. Yep. Hips up, hips in. Good. So go ahead, sit. Now, all right, so come back down, come back down. Once we pick it up, now, if you're a smaller individual, Taylor has like some weird voodoo magic on his hips because he can just kind of deadlift the fucker up, and it's in his lap. I can't do that mobility, and then he does this on the heavy one. Step in, under. That way we're in here tight, and we can get like you said. Okay, so that's what you gotta do. So deadlift it up, get it to here, step in, then put it on your lap. Good. No. Feet. Get over it. Climb. Swing. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, get over it. Get over it. Yes. Good. Now hips up. Hips in. Yep. Come on. Drop it down. Drop it down. All right. So you being a stumpy individual, we have to. We're still going to load it with the. You don't want it to be here. You want it to be up a little bit higher. We want the toes out a hair so we can track the knees out, right? So when we're coming through, it's hips in, knees out, right here. Then we can extend all the way through, okay? Good. Shift, shift, shift. Good. Keep going. That's what we gotta do for you, right? So leverage differences. Big, long. I like. Just for beginners, just to preface that. Let's get you around the bag a little bit here instead of going over, okay? So you want to walk your feet in, get them tight, 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 close to that, while having some room in your hands. Good. Shift it like this. Right, left, your hands all under that. There you go. Big pull up. Beautiful. There you go. Just like that. Now, bang out like 2 or 3 reps. Once you do something, you learn it, it's like, oh, I got it. Get a couple reps in. Stick it in the brain. This is what's good. Like, you're training yourself. So I'm going to set here. So I'm going to set here. Analyze your mechanics. You hit a P. I fuck up. How do you make it better? A second. These will tax you pretty good, so take a break if you need. All right, hold on, pause. Walk forward. Good. Shoot the knees forward, just like the log. Yep. Up. Now walk, feet in. Good, get it. Now sit, yep. Now swim, swim, good. Hips up, hips in. Oh, we got a natural. Good, good, good. Yep, so for you, you're gonna go over. There, yep. Yeah, but so get back on your lap. And when you get here, give me toes out. Yep. Good, good. All right, put up the one after this. Now get over it. Now, hips up this way. Yes, then. Yep, yep. Yep. Now, you're gonna ruin your bicep. Trap it. Get that. Get up. Now, when you're here, now freeze. Feet in as close to your hands as you can get them. Yes. Yes. Now pull. Over it. You squat it. Come back. All right. The hardest part about this is to understand that it's okay to get here with the hips back. You feel like you're going to fall forward, but you have to understand you're traveling backwards and counter. But act like move fast. I know you're an athlete, bro. I know who you are. Hips up, go. Better. Now, the thing to work on is you're trying to sink your hips too low. The higher the hip, the shorter. A barbell, the basic white girl hip extension. Motherfucker. Extension. Shorter to here. Showing your be good for you. We get this tech. enough room for your, shift that back, left to right, your hands under, get up, yes, arms, get up, go back down, go back down. All right, you deadlift like this? You deadlift like this with your arms? No, you straighten them out, right? Straighten them out, get your hands on your back. Yes, there you go, good. Now, hips high, right there. Now, deadlift. All the way up into the lap, good. Sit down. Now, hold up. When you're here, get back over where you were. So go back down. Start here, right? Swimming, right? Swim, step in. Swim, step in. The back should be on your thighs. Hold up, go back down. You guys are gonna do checks, okay? When you're checking here, put a little pressure into your stone with your fingers or your back. Pressure in the back. If it's tipping forward, hands gotta move up. If it's tipping back, hands gotta move. That will save you a fuck ton of energy, okay? Oh, where's your hands? Look at this. Can you get your hands up the back bar? Yes. Don't ever settle for what the implement gives you. Take every inch that you can get. Better? No, hips up, hips up. Hold up. So, hips up, hips up, hips up. Elbows in. Get under that back. No, don't get back to where you were. Yes, pull from there. You got a strong low back. Pull from there. Yes, sit. No. Lap. Get down to the lap. Good. Now, over. Hands down. Over. Hands down. Yes. Swim. Now, walk the feet in. Go back down to the lap. Yep, walk the feet back in. Right there. Yes. Now, hips up, drive. Closer. Go down. Take a second. We'll get you. So now you're getting closer, right? So your whole thing is you're too wide like this, collapsing your knees in, right? If you're caving your knees in, you can't use your glutes, right? They're shut down. So here, trap, and then Yep, go. Ready, ready, go. All the way up. There, come on. Come on, go. Yep, eat. Get under it. All right.
Oh, that's a motherfucker.
Yeah, grab it. Now try to blow from there. Go ahead. Hip side, hip side. Good, yep, good.
Oh, that's the best.
So, right, you already see a little dysfunction there, right? Very normal what you got to do, right? And that's because you didn't go hips in, knees out with the trunk back. And then he'd be here and that would go a little higher. He was kind of screwed, you're not going to be able to get it up that high, but that's little shit where that might save your ass at a show. Okay. Who wants to go? One more time.
Hang it out a little bit, pull it tight up top. Yeah.
I kind of do this to these guys on purpose. I'll make them train with really shitty stuff. That way if they go to a show and they have nice stuff, it feels easier.
You guys should see our runway out back here.
That's what I was, yeah, like the runway outside, it's all terrible. We don't have really fancy yoga.
Call it the aggro crowd.
I'll lift the rubber bars out.
We made her train on a bent axle for a couple of years. That was dangerous.
Our old log was
You
fantastic.
know, some cable almost died, so we changed that. All right, get forward on that back. A little bit.
Right here,
Go forward.
my hands.
Yeah, hands to the top of the back. Okay, step over here, tip forward on your won't be able to pick it up.
Okay.
All right, there you go. This side. Yep, good, sit. Now, hold this back towards each other. Yep, use one hand. Sit low, sit low, sit low. Yep, now, yep, get it, now. Roll it back into your position, you're around that back. Squeeze it, get lower, get lower. Get lower on your back with it. Yep, good. Now, hips up, hips in. Go, yay, there he is, good man. If you want to add cardio to your day, just mess around with sandbags. Easy way, and it gets your brute strong. Give it a try, man, you never know till you try.
That's tough.
Get all the way around that back, all the way in there. Hips high. Big pull, yep, all the way. So, where's your hands at when you came here? Right there, a little bit wide. So get them under that back when you tip it down. There you go, better. Now walk you forward. Now get back under that back. Shift it left, right, get under there. Good. Up here. Take a step, drag in. Fuck yeah. Now we can go over some horizontal lapping. That's what I like. For me, it's a pretty high risk in a show to do it vertically if the bags are not perfectly brand new packed. Or if you're at a show with a lot of people, they might start packed and they get shitty as they go. Hands on it, walk the feet forward, right? Yep. Shift to left to right, down under. Good. Oh, you had it,
Everything stuck between my legs.
That's the hard part, that's why I don't, so I'll show you guys the horizontal. Good, up, good, up, good. We will go over the, Nate, where'd he go? Nate. Nate.
Come on, Phil! Let's go!
So here, all right, I'll try to.
Let's go.
Take the microphone. I'll show you guys horizontal.
Yeah, push it.
All right, so horizontal. This is a good option for a lot of people. So what I do, I'll start with the back. I'll flip it on top of my feet. Now you got a little bit of space. Okay, now you can work. So flip. Try to do this without pulling a hamstring. Get under. Lap. Head. Over. Push high, feet. So that's a little easier because you don't got to worry about the distance hanging down, especially for you smaller ladies, smaller guys. But it's hard. So you'll see that I got long arms and I try to get every inch. I try to get that fucker up in my armpits. Take a second, get some more. Roll it up. Roll it. the toes, there you go. Fuck, I don't know. Ask Steve if he's still here. All right.
I don't like that way.
Well, okay, so now another way you can do it is if you got a good sumo. Figure that out. You can stand sumo and go under, and then go under that one. That's a little bit harder. Takes a little more adductor training. But for those of us that practice sumo, it's a little bit easier leverage. There you go. Oh yeah, let's get it. Good. Now swim, go for a swim, over top. Hips high, hips in.
Yes. There you go, you got it.
Hey, let's go. All right. I think we should do a show. What do you think?
Come on,
Get
let's
a
go.
show. That's like above contest weight that you would have.
That's way above contest weight.
All right, go back to the board. Stop squatting yourself up. Trust your low back. Hips up high. Okay. Good. Yep, better. The biggest thing is be patient on your lap. Get up tall and suck that thing in. Push it in your stomach and crush those ribs. All right, so freeze there. Good. There you go.
This is how you do it.
Good man. Yeah, that feels easy. Sometimes it's like, what the hard part is with the stones and the bags is that it's not good for the technique to practice with super light stuff. It's not big enough. You can't really feel the leverage. You can't counterbalance a 30-pound bag.
Shoulder.
Easy work for the big guy. Shoulder back there with the pros, bro.
Shoulder that bag.
Oh, hold on. No, go back. We don't ever want to throw and catch bags. Hell on the bicycle. Okay. Just pick it up and lap. This side. Right there. That's it. All the way up. Sit. Swim. Over. Walk your feet in. Feet in. Turn the toes out. Hips up. Go. Good. Better. Good. Now, when I say hips up, you just keep your hips here. Get over the back. And throw back. Okay? Go ahead. Do it again. Get it right. Big, I want to see you go again. That was too fast for me. Good. Sit. Walk your feet. Swim. Over. Now, go like this. Sit back and pull it into your hips. Yes. Okay. Now go back up. Now keep it there. So, okay, do this next time. When I meant that is sit up and pull it into your hip and then sit back down and get over it. That way it's all the way into that hip. Then you can directly drive hip into it.
Hold on, though. Before you do that, don't pick like this. Pick your knees inside your elbows.
So, Coach P, I got a question.
Drive your knees out.
It's almost like
At the other
Bring your feet closer together. Bring your feet closer together.
My requirement is
Yes,
220.
you want to be, and
Okay.
you want to drive your knees out. Just turn your toes out a little bit so you can drive your knees out. That's fine.
Didn't move.
Hips high.
When you hit that one like that.
Move. So is it like, it's heavy, but
Just
I
technique.
mean, this technique.
You're strong enough to hit 220 all day.
There we go.
It's just technique.
Be careful when you
I would
come
say
off the floor.
master that 200 bags. I would say for you, try that side pickup. You got long enough arms.
Okay. But
Were you
I
trying to
wasn't-
vertical
also
pick?
wasn't squeezing. No,
Yeah.
let's try
What's that? It's all technique, right?
Okay.
Go back, fix the form, and then wait to become easy. For reference, right? I used to have a working weight at like a 330 stone was heavy for me, and I'd work up. When I implemented this, I did it after, what was it? I did like a max something day, and I jumped in with those guys. I popped my hips up and just threw it on the platform like it was nothing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it
oh
was like,
shit.
It was a 375, I think.
Whatever, yeah, it was something way,
was
like
just-
way
it was
up
just
there
under
with
the
my working, like something that would have been like, I would need a big warm up, and I just went right to it. And it just moved like it was 100 pounds less relative to my old technique. That's how important this stuff is. You start realizing a lot of these guys and gals that are strong are not like brute strong. Like you could probably do some accessories with them and beat them. They just got better
After
form.
you're flexing your triceps, you will
You
not.
see these a 19-year-old kid pulling 900 pounds of straps. You think that motherfucker can take you? No way. You go, what was that? You're significantly stronger than him. He has better leverages, better techniques. Well, a lot of them kids, they learn that perfect deadlift because it's out there now. The information's out. They learn that stuff right away, so now they're mobile, they're wedging the palm, they're slack, their back's tight, they're stacked from day one, and then they just build it linear. Most of us have bad technique, we build, and we gotta go back. You know, we build. We're gonna fix a little bit, build. Good. Hips up, hips in.
Like young, strongman, like
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. There you go, not bad. Now you guys are going to notice, like, if you guys want to mess with how good your technique is, right? So now reposition. Get back down. Get up. Get up. Chest. Pull it down. Pull it down. There you go. Good. Now, good. You feel like something rolling on you? That's it. Try to want to sit as low. There's something you sit more here.
because you're gonna.
Well, you guys can mess with the same. It's kind of like, I call it a power percentage, right? So find a medium to heavy weight and then film yourself while you're training. And if you do that and it feels exponentially lighter and you move it exponentially faster, or in this case higher into extension, you had to have done something right. Analyze that rep. What did I do? There's going to be something better you did there, or else you're not going to move it faster or better at the same weight. If it was actually that heavy for you, it'd feel the same every time. Giving your technique was what's that? Got it at Harry Potter.
You know, like, I'm still working on it.
Me and my wife spent like $6,000 on Harry Potter shit.
Right? So, like,
Yeah, it was so much water.
for like a sandbag.
Over it.
Sandbags are so light.
Scaps.
Like, it doesn't go.
Scaps. Flowing. Yay, good, better. Don't get out of the toe so early. Finish.
I mean, try the 200.
Then toe. Heels, then toes. Yep, there it is.
I mean, I think all the way.
Yep, toes at the end. Toes will last a little bit.
So, I mean, that's.
A lot of you guys are going to try to get here. Like, yeah.
You know, you can stop. Try 200.
Sorry, I smell like a chili cheese Fritos.
I was thinking Michael Jackson at the very end of it.
What's that?
That's good. I felt like that was a Michael Jackson pose at the
Oh yeah, it's like shit though. Now Anna, you can mess with the deadlift portion of that and get kind of behind it, in front of it, whatever you gotta do. Good sir, now get the chest up and pull it in. Now yep, get over it, yep. Got it. Better. So leverage wise, some of this stuff this stuff is very general.
Yep, stand up.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good. Now, swim over, get it into your belly button. Pull it in. Yes, good. Hips up, hips in. Good, yep, good, not bad. So some of this stuff, right? If we can't physically get it into here, then we can start messing with some techniques. Then, like a lot of my girls, I had a girl that was like 94 pounds or something. She did stones. And we had to get her like some like Superman pad thing. And because she couldn't get it into her lap, so we had to like trap it into the chest. Not ideal, but sometimes you have to form fit stuff to fit your leverage. Yeah. Yep. So that was what we were talking about, right, between the transitions, right? Most people. So you have to get that technique down, right? So that is what we would put in here. So that way you would figure out your sandbag medley, you figure out your technique. How do I pick all three of these backs? Once you have that dialed in, then we add all the rest of the stuff and then train to fit. So like for me, if I'm doing a carry for this, I want to do a horizontal lap and load, and I want to pin it to my chest because now my hips are here. I'm either going to fall backwards, which you're not going to do because you're going to be traveling forward, or it's not going to slide down. I can pin it. So I can carry that a pretty good distance relative to if I'm just loading it over, I'm going to just get it and then load it. This one, I sneak it up like for a carry, I sneak it up my chest a little more and pin it, and I try to use the hips the same. You're not going to have as much power, but theoretically, if you're in shape enough for your show, you're going to be able to get away with a little bit of a power leak in terms of relative poundage from the bag. So a bag that you carry isn't going to be as the bag you're going to have to load. So you'll get it here, kind of pin it, and I'll do a little more front squatty technique just to get it up onto my chest and carry it there. You're going to notice, you're going to see a lot of people start carrying here when they get tired. And it ruins your back, and then a lot of this stuff is conservation of energy, right? You want to do as efficiently as possible. So if you got a medley and then you got a max deadlift, and you carry 4 sandbags like this, your low back's fucking roasted. Is your deadlift going to be better or worse? It's going to be way worse, right? If you guys want to, we kind of roll this over and do a couple of steps if you wanted to mess with some carries. Let's do it. So I'll kind of show you guys with the light. All right. Good. Hey, thanks for the tease, man. I love you, brother. Oh, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, man. Yeah. Hey, if you guys are messing with them bags and shit, send me some videos. I'll help you. All right. So light bags, okay? Andrew, those over there. I'll put this one over here. So, with implements that you're carrying, right? It's kind of the start is where everybody fucks up. You want to have the weight of the bag start to drift you forward, but then you want to get back behind the center of gravity of the bag as soon as you can. So what we see is a lot of people will trap it in the right spot and they start carrying it and then it gets in front of them and they roll. We want to get here as soon as possible. I try to keep my glutes tight the whole time. Scaps are down, it's that brace, it's all the same. I'm just tracking with my heels, okay? It's a lot of cardio for a power lifter, by the way. So get under. In. I sneak it up. This is not where I would do my stone, but it's a little higher. Trap, trap. Hips in, I'm pinned. Now I start walking. Right, glutes are tight, I'm just pulling with my heels. Here we go. I wouldn't recommend that simply because the bars that you're going to use in contests are probably do that. So I would recommend getting smack trap. Get in there, get in there. So do your technique all the same, but you're just going to move. Scaps down. Squeeze your ass. Pull with the heels. Good. So, if you're real advanced and you got the pressures that like Taylor has, you can get away with carrying it here. Or if you're a big strong man with a 2-foot gut, you can set it on top. You're fine. Most of us are a lot leaner. So belly under, scaps in our back pocket. It will pin your stomach under. Squeeze it into your chest. I aim for my breastbone. I'm trying to bend that bag around my back, around my chest. We can carry those big ones too. Nope. So right. So when I'm leaning back, strong manning. Back pocket. Yeah. Good. Lean back. Lean back. Good. Oh yeah, that's too light for you, big man. We gotta get a bigger. Use that. There. Yeah, I think that one's only like, what is that? 100. Yeah. This one's 1. That's 50. Yeah, it's 100 pounds more. Or no, it's 50 pounds more. I know, I won't kill you yet. Yeah, do what you gotta do. We got some dollars we use what we broke up today, so we gotta get new ones. Andrew, get in there. Give him a break. Yeah, let Andrew run that thing. I'm gonna take more of a get around it more. 9 and 3 years. Black guy, man. But so here instead of over so much. The equator. lean back, good. Easy. Right here, 2. Good, get the feet close. Good. Good, get under that, get under it, all the way, good. Now walk to it, good, yep. Good. Hold up, go back, what the fuck was that? Go down. You're all right, you know what, fix it. Yep, there you go, good. So some of this, if you're working with a coach, don't let them once you go, oh shit, fix it up. Now walk the feet in, good. Hips high, drive, pull it into the chest, good. There you go. Nice and high, right? So that would be a relatively easy carry at even a 250-pound bag, given that he hit it to his chest. That would be an efficient carry, and if we're tight and stacked, we're not smoking out our low back, right? Feet in, hips high, elbows stiff. Hold up, go back. You gotta hit the lat first. You gotta train like for a heavy back. Don't throw it up. Train like it's gonna be a max. Lat. Lean back, squeeze your glutes. Better. Yep. That's better. You're a little too upright, right? Yeah. So it's just like that stone when you triple extend with back like this. Get back to here and freeze. Now it's either going to tip you backwards, or so you're either going to fall, or it's trapped. If it's trapped, you can move. Good. Walk the feet forward. Good. Hips high. Hips up. Good. Walk the feet up. Good. Go back to your left. Yeah. Get it right like a max. Feet in. Good. There you go. Good. Hips high. Lap it. Swim. Lap it. Swim. Get over it. Pull it into you. Hips up. Hips in. Go. Lean back. If you can get a nice good pinch like you got, pinch that back. That works well too. Feels like a handle on there. Good. Walk the feet forward. Yep, good. See how our arms are nice and straight? That's what we want. Good, yep. Squeeze shoulder blades in your back pocket. Good. Lean back. Good. Just like that. Good. Now, anytime we're moving, guys, any moving event, farmers, yoke, anything like that, we want nice and short, choppy steps, right? The bigger steps we get, the more time we're on one leg. The more time we're on one leg, the more we tip. So we gotta stay tip. So we're right here. Long track steps, right? I kind of think about it, Energizer Bunny. So, whatever you're feeling, if I'm doing this. Little steps, and then pace it, right? As you got it, now you're like, all right, I got this bag, it's easy. Then we can start to pace up. Don't try to sprint out of the gate. That's the transition stuff Taylor was talking about on the methods, right? The pick's locked in, we get the first couple of steps going well. That's where everybody messes up. That kind of, this mid-speed, where everybody's moving, it's going to be very similar in your weight class, person to person. You might get some lanky guy that can take a big step. That might be a little something different. If you get your transitions and your starts down better than the next person, you will beat them in terms of speed. Who wants to try that 200?
I know, that's what
Yeah, dude. That's like a dead body, man. You'll be able to move a dead body into this.
Just curl that body up. Like Ben said, it's a lot of cardio for power.
That's too much cardio for a powerlifter. I did 3 sandbag over shoulders. I'm like, oh, I gotta sit down. I'm lucky I did them in the office too. I just cleared out. I'm like, I'm not bringing these out on the turf. Like,
Under the ribs.
yeah, I'm like, what is this?
We don't even know how to breathe. That's the problem. We hold our breath for most of our shit.
That was what, yeah. That was like all the mechanics and everything were so like foreign. It's like, I barely moved the 200 the first time. Then after a while, I got it. It was easy, but.
You're doing overhead press with this guy, and you're like, breathe in between reps. I don't even know how to breathe.
Dig up, you know.
Jen, you want to use that new technique?
What?
That's why I almost
Technique is 200 up.
All the way in.
I can try.
All right.
Let me get my shirt.
So they're what? Well, I can get culture.
And I also, you know, the guy.
Side.
What kind of friends are you hanging out with?
Ones that don't do that.
It's like a last pick on the
You need to expand your culture to
Absolutely not. I'm happy where
bring mouth to banana.
No, never. Mouth.
Hey, good man. Drive early. Good. There you go. See? Once it's up, you're like, oh, this ain't bad. It's that damn deadlift portion that's the hardest part.
So you see a lot of guys carrying that straight up and down. So you actually prefer to go.
That's just for me. I like the vertical carry, but with at a higher level show, they pack the bags tight.
Yeah.
At these lower level shows, like I was playing, like Michigan Strongest Man, we had half sand, 25-pound plate, some sand, a dumbbell, so it's all flopping all over. So I can just pull it around me and bend it like a banana around me, and that was just way easier. And I like it because for me, if we have to load it onto anything or over, like it's already up high, you know. So I like it for that reason. And then I think part of that for me is I was so front squatty with my technique when I started. I'm strong at that. But like if we're talking about like a sandbag over shoulder, like for you and your quad, I'll show you some of this stuff here. This technique, vertical, is exponentially easier. So if you can get just below the bottom half of that bag and we squeeze vertically and we go in, but the tipping point's already on your shoulder, you just let it go. It's a hip drive over your shoulder. Way more efficient across the bags. It's night and day because I would do horizontal, I would here, pop, catch, pop, 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 and then it was like, all right. And now I'm looking at it like, I'm going to use this technique when I go back to stone to shoulder, even for natural stones. And if you can get if you get an oblong triangular stone, you get the base, into your rib cage or into your hip even. We could probably hip just one motion over, so. So short arms, right? So if you got to be out wide, I would say maybe bring the feet in, roll that bag onto your toes, and get the arms under. This is going to be like, I'm probably going to get smashed on the internet for this. This is my only thing that I recommend sumo deadlifting for. Is picking up implements off the ground. I like the sumo for that because you get just used to this wide leverage, and then you can scoop things out from the side and pick them up.
What about like could I move it?
You can go vertical like you tried, carry it that way.
I don't know if I have the reach to get underneath it.
So if you get here, lap it and just pin it and pick it up. Now, we don't want to carry it down here. Now, if it's the last implement of a medley or you just have to do it, just move. Just move. Because a lot of this stuff they'll give a time, right? Or they'll give a distance, sorry. So, I mean, we saw Big Tall Urban's in there. He just did a show. He was the only guy to finish his medley. The rest of the guys came up a little bit short, but they all got judged based on distance. So one guy beat a guy because he went like this, 2 steps and went, threw forward, and he made it a foot, and he beats the guy in points. And it's just, some guys, like, I had one where I was here and there was fucking concrete, but I'm like, I got a bag in front of me, I should lean forward and just fall on the ground. I'm like, that's an extra 3 feet or whatever, so. So Joe, I'll show you that over the shoulder here in a second.
You gotta grab that thing low. Get in the ground low.
Yeah, it sucks low. So being a big, stumpy guy, your best friend just outside of this is going to be mobility. The more mobile you can be, the more you can get into positions that you wouldn't normally be able to. So that's your job. Stretch. Do some yoga. DDP yoga. It's great shit. Good. Lean. Oh, you got it.
Yep.
So you have the concept, right? If we get up a little higher, take a break and try again.
Your best friend.
All right, John.
What's the new thing that I gotta do?
Just hips high, hips in.
No, I just thought that there was something different.
Oh, no, no, I just want you to be able to get this higher, and then that's a PR. This is heavier than that 125, right?
Yeah, I did the stone. I did the 125 stone.
Oh, good. No bicep issue? Alright. Good. Jenna's the strongest mom and teacher you know.
Dig in.
So walk the feet in, yep, good. All right, big pull. Go. All right. So normally that bag wouldn't just fold in on you like that. We just have to repackage. Oh, you want to try vertical?
I'll try vertical.
When you get like 30 strong that week, you can back. They should pick out the shark.
That's literally where I'm going here, the Shark Week pool party.
Yeah, I got a, hitch punch.
Yeah, and part of my friends, I use that to help myself with.
See, when you're a gifted athlete like me, you just can deadlift each way, it don't matter. Get lower on that back, John. Let it hold your arms more. Yep, there you go, just a little bit. Now it's gonna swing towards you, just keep fighting it. Oh, you're right there.
I'm not gonna take those flat.
The hardest part is conquering the stuff mentally. When you start going for max, like heavy stone loads and heavy sandbags, even sandbag pick and carries, the hardest part is gonna be getting that fucker into your lap, by far. Good, good, walk the feet, good. Get everything right, yep, now, walk the feet in, swim over it. Good, trap, lean back. Good man. Hey, strong. Yeah, for his weight class, that'd be the heaviest bag you see.
And he dug in all the way to his
Way in there to the arm, that was perfect.
Appreciate it.
Where's Joe? Joe coming? Oh, Joe is gonna do the OSG qualifier. They got like I think it's a 3-rep max, right? Deadlift. They got a sandbag over shoulder, and they got some sort of press. Good. Walk your feet in, right? So think about this. If your feet move in, if your hands move in, your feet move in. The reason being is the closer your feet are, the higher your hips are. If you're worried about your back, you gotta train your back. Train your back correctly all the time. All right, we'll go over this for you. See, now he's smarter than most of us here. He turned the back sideways so it's breaking in a little bit, little hot dog hamburger action. Get up there. He's in. All right, so this for you. So sandbag over shoulder. I don't want to mess this up. Man. Check it out a little bit. It's probably like $7,000.
It is, yeah, we'll have to try.
I'll Venmo you in 10 minutes. I'm glad I won't tear something. All right, so we figured this out. So we used to do, like I was telling him, we used to go side pick, sandbag to shoulder or over shoulder, and then we figured out that this technique Taylor taught us translates to this a lot better. So we're starting, strongman goes in trends, as you guys might know if you follow the sport. There'll be a lot of circus dumbbells for a while, and then there'll be there's a lot of over the shoulder and two shoulder stuff, so that's kind of your cue of I should probably try to do this once or twice. So with this, we started to horizontal picking, and we kind of bounce over the shoulder. It took a lot of time. It was very efficient, but that was kind of all we were limited in our knowledge. So this, if you can get past the suck of vertical picking, and you grab that bag kind of just under center, and then we hips up and hips in, now the bag is kind of, the center of gravity is already tipping over your shoulder, and then you just kind of lean back and toss, okay? And that's important for him. He's got to go, what is that, a max for 3 or?
Max 1.
Max single, right? So over the shoulders all the same. We're going to tip it down. Get under it. Way in there. Hip side scaps. Up in. And then this one, you got to fuck with this bag. Here, up. Over like that. Now, for me, if I would have videoed that, I would have looked, I would have been too vertical. And luckily that was wide enough for me where it just momentumed over, but I would like to be here more. Now, that's important when you get heavy. So as you get heavy, I probably pop mine.
You're staying off your toes too.
I say, oh, I should say, I'm usually good at staying on the heels.
I mean, well, that's what I'm asking you. You're staying off the toes.
Yeah, I don't like going on the toe. Well, so for me, this is a coaching thing for me. Like I was talking about meeting yourself halfway. I used to be every stone pop up, I'd be here first. And then I said, all right, nothing counts until I'm just on my heels all the time. Now I got to learn to get back on the toes, like for a load, to get that last inch, you know. But so this is kind of a concept of like that's like universal stuff, right? So that high hips and load. This, relative to how I used to do it, feels like 100 pounds less. So this bag feels like the 100 pound used to, with my kind of hump it up your body technique.
It feels better on the biceps too, doesn't it?
Oh, way better on the biceps. Well, because you can get around it, and then you just kind of pull your scaps in. So a lot of this is, it's really hard when you start getting high level with the strength stuff, because you have to learn how to be tight in some places and lax, but with tension in other places, right? So we don't want to be maximally squeezing with our biceps, because then we get to here, the back slides, we're going to catch and pop the bicep. I want to just trap, and I'm frozen here, and I punch my scaps down, and I stack my rib cage, and now the whole thing comes from the hip. If I'm frozen here and I extend my hips, you look where my arms go, they already come up, and then instead of pull, I shrug. Shrug up over, and then the back's dipping. Anybody want to try to shoulder?
So what happens if the bag's smaller and you don't have that same flappiness?
So that one would be, we would want to either, if you're explosive enough, we would roll it all the way up, or you could trap it a little bit higher and toss it.
So it's over the shoulder, not just up the shoulder?
For this one in particular, yeah, there's two different ones. They just came up over the shoulder a while ago. Well, yeah, so if it was like a pod bag, like for you, I would,
Because I was going to say, I think most of them that I've seen have been the pod bags, where
Yeah.
until you get to the heavy weight.
yeah, so like, this is where it's good just to practice a couple different techniques. So like if we had a pod bag, I'll show you this here in a second. It's just like the log clean, right? We clean, oh, that's too, we're not rolling, right? So we adjust, one good roll. Same kind of thing here. So if we got a pod bag and I try the hips up, drive, and I get to about here, I'm like, I can get a little higher. This bag theoretically wouldn't be like a max in terms of like a load, like a stone load. So we could probably sneak it up a little bit, get higher height, and roll it over the shoulder. So it'd be a little more front squatty with a small amount of power lead, but with the benefit of being over the shoulder easier, right? So instead of sucking it into the belly button, you know, we'd be here. I'd lap it, so normally I would suck it in here, you know. So this one would sneak. Now it's on my chest a little bit, and now I'm here, over the shoulder a little bit easier. Then, opposed to if I'm trying, like, I might be able to get this over, but I have to get a huge hip extension going and kind of fall short a little bit, you know what I mean? Now, this all carries over too. Start getting explosive with your sandbags, then you gotta throw one. Same thing. Height, hips high, hips in, extend. Now, I got it.
Sorry, man.
What did you load in there, Phil? 150?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. The 50.
Yeah, 50?
I haven't loaded in a year.
Oh, it's been a minute. You've been in power.
Tomorrow I should be here.
Yeah. Phil's been with me for a long time. A good soldier.
Doing these lately?
No. Next one's
So,
January.
walk feet.
Same, give my body time.
Side, right here. Get over it. Get side, hips in, roll over.
45 and a half a year.
Don't throw it in your armpit.
It's like I hit
So if you're over here like this, you catch your armpit, where you gotta go with your arms?
and this is about 245.
Don't get under it. Bicep there. You'll have that.
The Bill Strongman ain't out, but we're all looking at the line.
Red light.
Try it up. So hip side, hips in. Good, better. So, okay. You came all the way up and let it drop. Stay here and just travel this way. Back with the hips and then. get it on your lap. You're just putting it in your lap wherever it goes, then you swim.
Okay.
Put it in your lap, half swim. Up again, pull it in further.
Okay.
Get under it. Now when we're here, now it comes up high. Roll. I didn't get like a double pitch twist. No, pull it in. Yep, there. Now get back over it. Take more space. Yep, good.
Like
Yeah. That was better for you to do.
I felt like that was harder.
Nope, you're right. Well, you went here. Straightforward. That's that concept of, it's very hard counterbalancing. You gotta learn how to drive your hips and lean back. It's kind of counterintuitive. All right.
I finished faster than you.
No, man, I was in there, in and out. Well, what do you want to do? Closing argument.
Closing arguments? You want to argue?
No, I don't.
Sure, yeah.
I had to lift like 3 sandbags. That's cardio for me.
I had to watch Andrew try so many times. There you go, Will. I had to watch Andrew try so many times.
All right, well, let's get any Q's and A's maybe, huh, real quick, and then we'll let them go, get beer.
Talk about anything? More time?
Why don't you teach the look up cube and stones? I don't think you ever said that.
So I guess going back to the, what point do you mean to look up?
Like when you're loading, like from your lap. So like,
Okay, because I actually don't think that you should be looking up. This is kind of like overarched. You don't have a neutral spine when you do this. So going back to what I said about the head through, it's the same reason. So if everything is in place, my head will go where it needs to go and stay neutral. It can be so misunderstood that if the athlete just thinks about that and they're just throwing their head back and looking up and not paying attention to anything else, then that, what I just said.
Is there any main takeaways, issues that you saw there that we should cover?
Guys, so we all went over this a little bit, but biggest problem I see in Strongman is not being able to engage this bottom portion of the quad to press into the ground, whether it's stones, deadlifts, logs. Actually, farmers, y'all do it fucking perfectly. Use your quads perfectly.
Yeah.
But not in the deadlift or anywhere else, so bend your knees is kind of the main thing.
You're gonna notice a theme when you start to get guys that are really understanding strength. You start to see these flat shoes, right? I go hobbit, photo baggage, feet, flat foot all the time. That is so important into your knee health, and your body works on proprioceptors, right? Pressure points that give your body feedback to fire muscles, right? So, for instance, my deadlift, when I wasn't working on my feet, they were kind of shrinking up and all bound up there. I started losing pop off the floor, and I wasn't engaging my quads correctly because I couldn't grab and root into the floor. Once I started working on my feet, I started being able to spread my toes and grab the ground. It was providing that proprioception, but that pressure sensory that tells your quads you need to fire, and also creates more stability through the legs.
You guys know how like that kind of common thing of like, oh, we see a sticking point in the lift, we see where it starts to slow down, so let's like make it tougher at that portion, right? You know what I'm talking about?
So like if you fail a deadlift at your knees, we'll do rack pulls.
Like block pulls help lockout, right? Like that whole, it's just kind of that surface level visual, right? If you're doing what he's talking about, that doesn't apply. Like that's not how it carries over. A deficit isn't necessarily going to help your speed off the floor. Correcting your feet is going to help your speed off the floor. And once everything is optimized, there really should never be this obvious repeatable sticking point. You should just kind of stop because the weight is too heavy.
Yeah, so you
Does that
get,
make sense?
like, so some of this stuff, right? Now, there's a time and a place to put in top half deadlifts for people. But what he's saying is that most people put them in without fixing the root cause of the technique from the floor, right? So if we pull a deadlift and we round our back right here, and we don't round our back actively, but passively, get pulled into this position, and they stall at the deadlift, some random internet coach is gonna go, man, they need more glutes, they need more top half work. And then we look at it and we say, no, their position is dog shit. So think about a muscle, right? It's like a rubber band. You stretch it out and then you fling it. That's the contraction, right? If you round your back like this and everything's lax, now we have slack in the muscle spindle of the glute, We cannot fire the glute. You could have a 9,000 pound hip thruster and you're not gonna fire it. We have to work on getting that neutral spine back to actively stretch the glutes so we can fire them correctly. Now, what they're gonna do is they're gonna do a top half deadlift and they're gonna round their back the same fucking way but with more weights and they're probably gonna hurt their back.
It's actually going to make that weakness they're trying to bring up worse. It's just going to like add to the fire.
So why your max training, maximal effort stuff translates to more strength gains, right? You fire more intramuscular fibers, right? There's more of that, what you can think of as mind-muscle connection. It's kind of not like that, kind of is. But that's why lifting with terrible technique is so hard to break. You learn better with heavy weights. So when you lift shitty with heavy weights, then you come to us and we're like, well, we gotta fix this guy's deadlift for a fucking year because he just did 7,000 PRs with a rounded back.
You got a bad habit, we gotta break the bad habit.
Yep.
It takes about as long as it took to make the bad habit.
So just in terms of the active foot thing that he's talking about, right? We want to be able to spread the toes out. And we want to have active arches. We don't need to be digging into, like a lot of people talk about digging into the ground with the toes. We don't want that. We want to grab the ground and this little torque, we call this rooting. This external rotation creates torque in the hip and it facilitates power through the hip, but it also keeps the quads activated and everything. So it's all of our hips high, low. It's our butt back, our knees out, or our hips straight down, knees out. Look into some of this stuff. You know, Duffin has the foot stuff, and Steve hates it because we're in here training with bare fucking feet all the time, and he thinks it's gross. But get in there with a lacrosse ball. You know, roll your feet out. Train in shoes that can widen your feet. That's why he has these. They have a wide toe box, so you can get his feet out. If your feet are crammed in here like this, you don't have a lot of surface area. Now you're unstable. Your body has a mechanism like a traction control on a vehicle, right? If it's unstable, your force production goes down because your body's not going to let you go 10 out of 10 force production and blow a joint off, or a muscle off of the joint. But, yeah.
What kind of shoes would you recommend to be able to root in best?
These are awesome. I like those old, nobody has them, those old Reebok powerlifting shoes.
Yeah.
As you get, so like for me, right, I had like a 13 shoe when I was a kid, and I regressed because my feet got so tight back to like a 10. And I'm like, I'm fucking training, what the fuck's going on? And then I fixed my feet, and I grew out of all my shoes I had at the time. And I didn't grow out of that, but my foot more flat.
Right.
So, the standard shoes don't have a wide toe box. They cram your feet in, so that's why everybody wears these now.
What are those?
Those are what are the
Barefoot
shoes?
spelled like the animal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Barefoot.
They got a bunch of them now. They have like Zero. You gotta watch out because some of them are like, we made these out of vegan plants and they're $7,000.
Yeah.
Don't go for those because they're just waste money. That's it for feet.
That's it for the feet. See, I just want to get freaky later about feet.
Yeah, we know what that's a whole different combo.
Different seminar.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
That's tonight.
That one's not ready.
No, that one's only fence.
Depends on who you are.
Is there any other questions about anything? Any weird?
One thing I want to say about the feet, and then kind of gave you quite a bit. Well, I mean, not necessarily the feet, but when you're watching your films, or if you're a coach and you're watching your athletes' films, watch for trends of where the foot will come up, both the spot that it lifts off the ground and at the point during the lift that it comes off the ground. And just that alone, go pay attention to that. That's going to be one of the main things that's going to tell you variation, picking, what the actual weakness is. And it will pretty much be happening in every lift, I would say.
Yeah, so
Same
like
way.
a little different note. Well, like if you guys ever need to reach out to either of us, I mean that's how I started becoming friends with him. I just reached out and we started chatting about training. All these guys, if you see a guy that's higher level that me or him coach, I'm sure they're all the same way. They're open books. We like to pass the knowledge down. So if you guys have questions, shoot a DM over, or don't ever call me. I don't like phone calls, but we would be more than happy to share it. And so a lot of this stuff was awesome for me and him coming up because we weren't. I mean, what was your first max deadlift? Like mine was 2 something. But anyway, concept of the story was. We weren't these guys. I tried to get to coaching years ago from a guy that came off the couch with a 600-pound deadlift, and 7 years later, it's 650 deadlift, something like that. So he never kind of really took that journey to learn it, right? So we've all been there. I've been there struggling with the 200 bag. That was a max bag for me at one time. And all this stuff. So we have a unique knowledge base because we are always out there looking for new forms, how to get stronger, how to learn more. And we've worked with such a huge diversity of athletes. And when you do that, you see amazing progressions and regressions, right? So a problem that any of you guys have, we've probably seen before. And we can get you a solution a lot faster than tinkering around.
You don't got a whole lot of time to waste in your athletic career because we are on a clock. So
We're on a clock, and then when you start getting into family and mortgages and stuff like that, this stuff is very hard to do at the level that you want to do it. I just say most of this stuff, just keep going. Keep putting your time in, and you're going to get stronger. You will get there. Like he said, it's going to be 10 years for him. It's going to be about damn near 10 years for me. And you're going to catch a stride. You're going to figure out more, and you're going to climb that level where you want to get to. You don't have to be this monster. You don't have to come off the couch as a monster. You can learn how to be a monster, and you can turn yourself into a fucking monster. And the beautiful thing about that is you don't owe anybody anything. You did it for your damn self. And I love that part about it. That's why I do all this. I love that.
anything else, guys?
Well, thank you guys for coming. This is awesome. Me and him had a great time.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys making time to come out.
Thanks for doing it.
I gotta thank Gym Led Podcast for the live stream, and they promote this thing. They're awesome, so make sure you check out the podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna put it up on the YouTube channel too, so you guys can go back and watch any of the shit that these guys are talking about. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
We'll be around for a little bit if you guys want to talk.
Yeah,
about
we're gonna be floating around answering some extra miscellaneous questions.
Not Planet Ever? That was fucking awesome.
Well, that's what.
That was perfect.